not saying after 9.
Listen, we can't even stay out to 8 if we want to.
I mean, but there is.
Hey, should I be there? I'll do it. Get started.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the City of Riviera Beach City Council Workshop. Today is March the 11th. The time is 6:35. Madam Clerk.
Mayor Douglas Lawson, Chairperson Shirley Lanier,
Here.
Chair Pro Tem Kashamba Miller Anderson,
Present.
Councilperson Bruce Guyton, Councilperson Dr. Glenn Spiritus,
Here.
Councilperson Priscilla Davis Panier,
Here.
City Manager Jonathan Evans, City Clerk Deborah Hall is present, City Attorney Don Nguyen.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum, you may proceed.
Mine is on. We will have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilwoman Davis Panier. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Walter, could you
Testing.
all right, somebody's on their way. This is our workshop for 2026. Mr. Evans, will you start with the introduction and purpose?
Madam Chair and members of the board, the items that are on the workshop are public policy items that we need direction from the board as to effectively move some of these items forward. And so a lot of the items that will be discussed today are for the purpose to get clarity of direction from the board as to how you wish for staff to proceed. And then there are subsequent actions that are contemplated after we get direction from the board. And so our intent is to hit on topics such as our comprehensive plan, procurement code updates, special events, advisory boards, as well as rules of procedures for the city council concerning meetings, and then a discussion on property tax. And staff is prepared to commence the presentation, starting off with the discussion with respect to the comprehensive plan.
Yes, go ahead.
There you go. I'm good.
Yes, sir.
Testing. Thank you. Madam Chair, I was going over this agenda, and these are workshops, and I'm a little confused because workshops are designed to take a deep dive into a particular issue, have some fruitful conversation, and not rush through them. This agenda has about 6 or 7 different workshops on one. All of the workshops I've attended has only had 1, maybe 2 items, because it's designed to give time to have the deep dive into these issues. I think that this agenda is overloaded. One thing, and let me announce this, I'm leaving at 9 o'clock. I don't care where we are. But this agenda here is overloaded. This is not how you do workshops. And I was a little puzzled. I said, well, maybe I'm misunderstanding what a workshop is, because I've attended a lot of them, and guess what I did? I ChatGPT'd it. And I'm gonna tell you exactly what it says, but we are now in an area where
Sorry.
Wait, Mr. Chair. City council workshops are informal meetings where a city council discusses issues in depth, taking a deep dive before making official decisions. This agenda is designed, in my opinion, for us to rubber stamp and keep it moving. We need to separate these issues.
I understand, Commissioner Guyton, what we can do, if it's the pleasure of the board, there's 6 items here. We can break this into 2 meetings. We can pick 3 for tonight, and then we need to set a date for the next 3. But we would have to set a date tonight to be able to break this up.
I think we need to only do 2 tonight.
Well, we got half.
I mean, if we're gonna have deep discussions, Madam Chair, I mean, one item can go into an hour, hour and a half or longer, depending on what discussions there are.
It's at the pleasure of the board. How many do you want to hit tonight? Board members, Spiritus?
Madam Chair, really have no opinion. 2, 3 is okay with me.
Davis Mayor?
That's fine. Can we group them with things that are similar, like,
Okay.
you know what I mean?
Yes.
Look at it, and if it's like the future land use and
Right.
code something, if we can group them like that, I think it would
Okay.
be good too.
All right, Madam Chair,
Commissioner, yes, go ahead.
is there anything that's time sensitive that we have to do right away? Is there
Okay, we'll get to
like
that
the
one.
comp plan or something like that? Is that time
Let-
sensitive?
Right, let me get an agreement between the, Commissioner Miller Anderson.
It doesn't matter to me. I would just know whatever we're doing, we need to get going.
Very good. So, Mr. Evans, could, the first thing that you can do is give us a grouping of the ones that are similar, and the second thing that you can do is give us the ones that are time sensitive.
Wait, I have one question, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Who asked for the rules and policy changes? Was there a council person
Rules
that
and
asked for that?
policy changes.
Yeah.
I definitely, I mean, I support it, to have
No,
a discussion.
no, my question was who asked for it?
I did.
That was quick on your feet.
Okay.
Okay, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Evans.
Madam Chair, we did attempt to do that with respect to the sequences of items on the agenda. So we did go with the items that for all intent and purpose have been the items that the board has expressed concern. To facilitate boards and the committees moving forward. And then the items associated with the rest of the agenda, realize that when the board said it wanted to alternate or change how it handles utility district meetings, there are resolutions that effectively have to be changed to facilitate handling the utility district and making some changes. So that's a procedural item that was on the agenda and has been pushed off a couple of times. But certainly, we want to be able to at least give you an update on property tax reform. But if I had to say the items, the 3 items that, or if the board would be inclined to hear a 4th, that is really quick, it would be property tax reform. But the 3 items would be the workshop discussion on the comprehensive plan, procurement codes, and your boards and committees. The conversation concerning property tax reform is probably a 10-minute conversation, just as an update.
We're doing 3. I think that's what we agreed.
First 3, 2A, 2B, and 2C. Board, Mr. Evans, could you give us a couple of dates? And we can do that tonight, because I don't want to have to push this off any longer. Look at your calendars, please, council, and see what date is amenable to all of us for the next 3 items.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
I can also look at the agenda for the 18th and see if there's any items that could be as discussion items, or I can look at another meeting that maybe has the 5th Wednesday, or if there's a desire, if there's a meeting that the CRA chooses not to have in next month, I can look at some dates. As the discussion goes, I'll find some alternative dates.
No, anybody's got a problem with the 19th?
Thursday the 19th?
Okay, that's screen break?
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to the 26th. What does that look like?
Is that Easter weekend?
That's the Thursday, 26th.
Okay.
Is that your Easter weekend?
I'm trying to see if that's No, I'm good, okay.
You
I'm
good, the 20,
Mhm.
26? Everybody else good for the 26th?
Was that a Thursday?
Thursday, 26th. All right, very good. Mr. Evans, Madam Clerk, could you advertise that the 26th, 6 o'clock, and we'll do the next three.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead, sir.
before we make the decision on these top three, I think we do need to give staff direction on two other items. The Special Events Department has stopped approving and reviewing until after tonight's meeting. So there's organizations that are looking for direction, and our Special Events Director is looking for clear direction. We have a policy in place, but they also wanted some clarity on the policy. I think there's going to be some delays, so we have to figure out how to maneuver with that, with direction for our city manager. And then also the reform. I think the tax reform, as Mr. Evans said, would be short and update. The only recommendation I would say that he needs to bring back is what does our board look like if this is passed? And what is the budget going to look like based upon it passing, and what percentage of our budget we'd have to operate on, and what would be some of the departments impacted. So I don't think that'd be much of a discussion for that F item, but that's where the direction we should give him. But moving forward, But
Yeah,
moving-
so
Madam Chair, if I can
Oh,
finish.
yes, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. But moving forward with the agenda, I agree that the top three would be the most important and most impactful for us to discuss tonight and get out of here after we get the comprehensive plan. But I think that we need to keep these workshops to 1 to 2 items, just so that we can actually have really in-depth meetings and discussions and start our budget talks a little earlier as well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, very good. So you have one for the 26th. We have one tonight, which is the 11th. Do you see board having another one in April? I mean, that one on tax reform is gonna be, that's a 2-3 hour conversation. Because that basically is saying that if this stuff passes in Tallahassee, it is going to decrease our property, our ad valorem, put it that way.
Madam
But-
Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
let's just try the 26th, and if we need to do another one beyond
good.
that, we can.
All right, let's do that. So we'll do 2A, 2B, and 2C this evening, and for the 26th, we will do 2D, 2E, and 2F. Very good. Can I get a motion to approve that?
Okay.
Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Davis Benier,
Yes,
Councilperson Guyton,
No.
Oh, wait. We can't vote. We cannot make any motion. Mr. Wynn, you got to jump in there now. Come on now, don't be sitting there watching us.
So we have a consensus that we'll move to the 26th, the last three, and if we have to have another one, we will make that decision on the 26th. Very good. Mr. Evans, let's go ahead and get started. Introduction and purpose.
Madam Chair, at this time, I'm going to go ahead and ask for the Development Services Director and his team to come to the podium to begin the conversation with the board concerning the comp plan. Statutorily, there are only a few documents that you're required to have as a municipality, and a comprehensive plan is one of those, and a comprehensive plan is enforceable by law. And so there's a lot of elements that must be consistent with your comprehensive plan. So staff has gone through an overhaul, a look at the comprehensive plan. So today we're trying to get direction and clarity from the board on certain elements and new elements of the comprehensive plan. And so Director Sermons, along with staff and our consultants, will be able to provide you a presentation.
Sermons.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Manager. Good evening, Madam Chair. Good evening, members of council, Honorable Mayor, and Madam Attorney. It is exciting to finally be before you to discuss the comprehensive plan overhaul that staff has been working on for quite some time. As you know, this board approved a contract with Calvin Giordano and Associates to partner with us in this endeavor some time ago. Since we've begun and started writing, the regulatory environment has evolved in the state, and even things related to DEI and making sure we are consistent with the new state requirements with terminology in our document, SB 180. Multiple things have caused us to pause and re-review on what we've developed to make sure we're consistent with the state's expectations, because after, as you know, after first reading of this document, we will transmit our draft comprehensive plan to the state so that they can let us know if there's any issues or comments they have for us, which we must address before it can be adopted. So with all of those changes that have been taking place, we've been modifying, working on this document in the midst of a spirit of transparency to communicate with the public as much as possible, allow as much access as possible to this document so that they, along the journey of this, can weigh in, give us their thoughts. There have been multiple workshops that the city has hosted. Staff has gone to dozens of city-sponsored and private events to set up tables to convene with the public. We have sent surveys out, and all of this has been available online throughout the process so that the public can see and follow along with these draft documents and provide their comments electronically. And so in that sphere of work and activity, we've drafted what you have been provided in your backup as the draft comprehensive plan for Riviera Beach, which has been needed for some time. So what we'll do with the time allotted tonight is give you the highlights of each element and what has been provided and the significant changes made, and highlight some of those things to make sure you have an understanding. And we know that as needed, we'll continue the conversations as much as possible. And with that introduction, myself and Principal Planner Sunise Simon, who has been leading the way in this effort, we will turn the floor over to our consultant from Calvin Giordano and Associates, Mr. Graham Long, who has been managing this effort through their firm, and he will be moving forward with the presentation.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. Graham Long with Calvin Giordano and Associates. We are the city's consultant planners who have been working on the comprehensive plan for some time now. We're pleased that we're getting toward the adoption phase. But prior to that, we of course want to seek your input and comments on the work we've done. So I thought we would go through a little bit of the process that we've been through, and then some of the top level major changes that happen to all the elements within the plan. So the purpose of the comprehensive plan update is manifold actually, but primarily we wanted, as part of this, the comprehensive plan hasn't been updated since 2010. So it's quite old and there's a lot of outdated language. And like Mr. Sermon's referenced, the regulatory environment has changed, planning practices have changed. The community has changed in that period of time. So we really wanted to bring this up to the modern era and then also add in some areas of focus that we previously had not, were not included with the comprehensive plan.
So let me ask you, it's every 10 years?
So you're supposed to do it every 10 years. That deadline would have been, excuse me, you're supposed to do an evaluation and appraisal to do an update every 7 years. So that deadline passed before we even started this update.
So every 7 years it's supposed to be?
Yes.
Okay.
And determine if you want and need to make an update to the plan. Right.
Madam Chair, another quick question.
Yes, go ahead.
Is there a penalty for not meeting the deadline requirements?
The state has different regulations that cover the time period, but basically the State Department of Commerce, which now reviews all the municipal comprehensive plans, just wants you, if you miss the deadline, to update it as soon as possible. So there isn't really a tangible penalty at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Next slide. So that's, like I was saying before, we're at the update process in the input and recommendations from both Planning and Zoning Board and from the City Council. This is just a framework of how we approach the process, where we, over the last couple of years that we've been working on this, this shows exactly what our methodology is going forward in preparing the comprehensive plan. And on the next slide, I have the specifics of what we did as part of a lengthy and extensive public participation process. So we had 4 open houses that were specific. Oh, thank you. That were specifically about the comprehensive plan. We also did workshops with the business community. We showed up at other community events to try and broaden who we're soliciting input from. We had individual meetings with resident groups, stakeholders, advisory groups. We sent out surveys and got decent response from that, from the business community and from the residents. And then, of course, we have our website with all the online resources and the draft plan. This is just an example of one of the meetings that we had here. We tried to make it a very interactive process, community focused, brought people in to solicit specific ideas, polled the audience. They're just very user-friendly type of ways for people to understand and provide some real input into the plan. And then, of course, we went out into the community as well. So what we heard from the community is how we got to the guiding principles that we used at the beginning of this update that we applied and were thinking about as we were making changes to the plan. This came directly from the public participation process, from your input, from planning and zoning, from all stakeholders. So we had safety, equity, resiliency, prosperity, neighborhoods, and livability in mind throughout the update of every element of the plan as a framework, an approach to the update. So now I'm going to get into some of the specific elements and the major changes that we are proposing with this update. Land use, of course, is the biggest, the first, one of the most important elements of the plan, and there are three major changes. The first being a focus on neighborhoods and corridors. We wanted to beautify corridors and make that and have appropriate uses along corridors that make sense. Connectivity was an issue, and so as a result of that, we also brought back the concept of neighborhood area plans, like specific plans for specific neighborhoods, because that's one of the things that came up when we were talking to residents in different neighborhoods from different neighborhoods throughout the city, is that the residents were saying that these are very specific neighborhoods with specific needs and specific character. And the comprehensive plan doesn't really address the needs for those areas. So there was an old concept that was in the plan that wasn't really fleshed out to have like neighborhood action plans that would address those specific needs of the specific areas. And so we decided to bring that concept back and enhance it so that they actually had some teeth, if you will, and actually could provide for the needs of those different areas.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
as it relates to the action plans, what is the schedule to develop those for the various neighborhoods?
I don't recall what specifically I don't recall if we put in a specific schedule for that, but that is something that you as the council could take action on that. Mainly we just want to make sure that it's mentioned in the comprehensive plan because that's
understood.
what gives you the ability to address it.
Understood.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect that to be in the comp plan.
Oh, okay.
These are concepts.
Concepts, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking further
Mm-hmm.
to actual execution
Mm-hmm.
and not just talk concepts in the comp plan.
Right.
Has there been a discussion for action plans? I guess you can answer that.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
And thank you for your work on this. I know you did a lot, as did others,
Our team did a lot of work on this, correct? Thank you.
except Mr. Sermon, but I understand.
Councilperson Guyton. To answer your question, we are, for this, starting this, end of last year, but starting this year, we are working on our neighborhoods plans where we are beginning the process of making this part of our practice. So to start implementing some of the things that we are that are concepts right now in our plan, we are actualizing them this year, and neighborhood plans will begin this year. We've begun identifying our neighborhoods that we're starting in, and then we'll begin piloting the first one to see where it goes from there. Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
are we hiring consultants again to assist in this? Is this done in-house?
Right now, our hope is to try to begin it in-house, and then depending on budget and all, maybe we can look at it hiring out. I know we have a couple projects that are hired out to assist us, but right now predominantly in-house with our thought process right now.
Okay, cool. One last statement. Madam Chair, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
It's important to take concepts off of paper
Correct.
and put them in execution. There are a lot of theories that be floating in the different communities,
Mhm.
but they're never implemented.
Correct.
They look good in the plan, so I want Riviera Beach to be the exception. And I know that we may not be able to implement everything all at once, but we can start rolling some of these concepts out, and the neighborhood can feel a difference. So
Right.
that I'm looking forward to, actual execution.
One of the things that we're working with, we're prepping our communications teams. They've been very patient with us as we think of these ideas, but rolling a dashboard together so that way we can monitor take the ideas off of our plans and start to have a monitoring and evaluation process to join it. So that way we see, this is what we said we want to do. Where are we? Have we begun? Are we in the middle of progress? Have we completed? So that way it's a more, transparent process, and that everybody has more confidence in that we're actually going towards using the plan and we're actually implementing. What's been great has been our directors help with building these plans. And so it's what do you think is feasible that you're able to do? Give us your ideas. I want you to give me something that you know that you'd probably be able to do, not just pie in the sky. So that way they're on board with it. So that's what we're doing in order to take it off paper and actualize and implement these ideas. And we do know not all will probably be able to be done based off of budget, but we can at least go towards some of the bigger ones in the lower hanging fruits as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, and just to follow up, I was going to say the same thing about the accountability, holding ourselves accountable to what we say and putting the information out to the neighborhoods, what they can expect, and so that we stay on the timeline. Because at the meeting yesterday, you heard people want to know what's going to go on in my neighborhood. We hear about other places and things that are going on, projects, but people want to see, progress and things going on in their own neighborhood. So I think we have to do a better job of communicating and, like my colleague said, getting it from the paper to actually take into fruition, come to fruition.
Correct. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, the next major area, major proposed change we have to the land use element is the creation of a new general mixed use designation. So right now, the comp plan has the future land use map that also has a list of all the land use designations and what types of uses can be in those designations. Excuse me. I'm not feeling well tonight, so I apologize for that. Excuse me? Yeah, no, I'm good, thank you. The current future land use map has an office designation that's sort of outdated and not well thought out. And we plan on, the proposal plans on changing that to a new general mixed use designation that would provide for a mix of uses within one development. And it's important to note that the intensity of that does not have to be extreme. Just because you're allowing for mixed uses, residential, commercial, together in a designation means that, or just because you're allowing that does not mean it necessarily needs to be big, tall, large scale projects. It can be 2, 3, 4-story buildings. It can be 1 or 2 lots that are assembled. You see this type of development in other communities throughout the state, and it's very useful for beautifying the corridors. It's very useful for enhancing housing, and it also allows for walkability to and neighborhood enhancement and neighborhood creation. The plan does have a downtown mixed-use district that's within the CRA. So I will show you on the map in a second where we propose to add this general mixed use. We're not proposing any changes to that downtown mixed use district. This is an added designation that could be used elsewhere in the city.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
Are you suggesting to keep the office designation and mixing it with a different use, or you're removing it?
We're replacing the office designation. That's what we're proposing. There's only 3 very small areas that even have the office designation, 2 small strips in that are currently single-family homes. We want to actually change that back to single-family. And then an area on Singer Island as well that has this office designation. So those would be the ones that would be replaced.
Well, Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
what are you changing it to?
So I can show you on the map. Let me go to the next one.
And while you're doing that, another question.
Mhm.
The commercial designation oftentimes incorporates office use.
Mhm.
Do we need another designation when we already have one that incorporates office?
That was also part of our thinking. The office designation is a bit redundant because if somebody wanted to implement an office use, you can do that in the commercial, under the commercial designation.
Okay, so are we still creating another designation in addition to commercial?
We would eliminate office and replace that with general mixed use. Commercial designation would
Okay.
remain.
Okay.
Mhm. And you
Chair
can
Pro
see,
Tem?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Chair?
Go ahead.
Okay. So my question is the office designation on Singer Island that you're going to replace with mixed use. What are the requirements? What are you talking about height-wise, width? Yeah, do you have zoning attached to this, or are you just saying generally mixed use is okay?
That's, the zoning happens under separate ordinance later on. That you can change at any time through the land development code. This just creates a foundation to be able to have a zoning code for general mixed use. The parameters of that you control through the land development code.
Well, Chair?
Go ahead.
Okay, so are you, in the zoning section, are you going to refer back to this mixed-use zone and make recommendations for this change in your zoning to mixed use?
As part of the comprehensive plan, we would not get into anything with the zoning. So we're not making any recommendations on that beyond just what zoning districts would apply to those land use designations. So we do recommend the creation through the comp plan of a general mixed use zoning district, but we don't actually include what would be in that zoning district in the comp plan. That goes in the land development code.
Yeah, Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
So I've done a lot of master plans.
Mhm.
I've won awards from the APA.
Mhm.
I've never heard of a comp plan that does not deal strictly with zoning and make recommendations for those zoning districts when you're making changes to that district. This sounds backwards to me. You're leaving it up to us later on, and that shouldn't be. This is something that should have been discussed during all our workshops, all our meetings with the community. We should have known exactly what you had in mind and what you were recommending from a zoning standpoint. To just say mixed use is ridiculous.
We do recommend, like I said, the creation of a district. None of the comp plans that we have worked on in the state do we actually set what the parameters are for a zoning district during the future land use update. We
Excuse me,
do.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
I have to disagree, because didn't we make,
Madam Chair, if
in
I
our
may.
last zoning comprehensive plan, didn't we recommend that the submerged land be preservation?
Madam Chair, okay. I do want to clarify, we do in the draft comprehensive plan have a table that lists all of the future land uses and all of the zoning districts that would facilitate those associated land uses. So that is on, what is that, table 3 of the future land use elements. So the proposed general mixed use has 6 multiple zoning districts that fit within the concept of a district that allows commercial, residential, and office. So what you're requesting is already reflected in the plan. So I think it was just a confusion in how the question was asked. So this doesn't effectively change anyone's zoning, but it creates a new future land use zoning, future land use designation, and it also lists what zoning districts would fulfill the purposes of that future land use.
Right, Madam Chair?
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
so are you keeping the same zoning that was in that district previously, or are you coming up with new zoning recommendations for that mixed use?
No, through the chair, the zoning districts already exist. We're identifying which existing zoning districts
You think would fit?
work under that future land use that we've just created. So they already have their own heights, densities, intensities that already exist. These are existing zoning districts that make sense with this future land use of general mixed use.
Okay, I got it, thank you.
Yeah, and I apologize because
Okay.
I actually worked on that table.
Okay.
So, that I think I meant more that you can always create another zoning district later on and then apply that to a future land use designation.
Right, Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
But I think it would be great if you can make recommendations, for zoning changes, based on, concepts that you're coming up with. I mean, that would be very helpful to the city council making future zoning changes.
Yes, we can certainly do that, and we do have some recommendations that we fleshed out for what a district like that would permit and what it would look like.
Right, thank you.
So those were the three big major ones for the land use element. Moving on, I'm going to go through, in the interest of time, I'm going to go through these kind of quickly, and then we can do a discussion at the end because there's several elements. For the housing element, we're trying to address different housing types and what the city needs in certain neighborhoods for certain types of housing. So addressing neighborhoods' current conditions in housing, we heard a lot about preserving housing in certain areas and then adding workforce and other types of affordable housing to other neighborhoods and where that goes. So we flesh a lot of that out in the housing section, as well as added policies about home ownership, promoting home ownership, and keeping people in their homes through various financing and other initiatives that help people remain in their homes.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
go back to the other screen. And I know you said that you're going to try to rush through it. That workshops are to be detailed, and that's what I was talking about at the beginning. Where it says address the needs of the unhoused, I'm assuming, is that the homeless?
Sorry, I was just going to say that we use the term unhoused because the term homeless tends to connote somebody who's like living on the street essentially, but unhoused is a broader category. It could include people who are, don't own or rent a home and are staying with other people, staying with family. So we just want to use the most broad term possible.
Okay. As it relates to address needs of the unhoused, again, it would be important to have an action plan. And does anything exist at all? I know that the state have requirements for municipalities not to allow the homeless to use public areas for habitat, for lack of a better term. But do we have any programs that address helping them, not just putting them off our property?
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, all of our programs aren't addressed through existing programs, referring to aren't necessarily addressed through the development services or the land development regulations, but our police department has a very active operation as it relates to those who are unhoused. And I've actually worked with them when they had to connect someone to necessary resources in the area to get them shelter in the time of need. So I would say that our police department does an outstanding job in the situation when we've had to bring someone to their attention who was in need. As far as the land development side of things, at the moment, we don't have programs, but we are identifying in our plan the need for all of the types of residents we have, so that those principles can guide future ordinances.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Yes, I do know that we, in our police department, matter of fact, the captain was here who worked with that program. I saw him here earlier tonight. We as a community, I think, have a responsibility to help those in need. Some people don't want any homeless shelters in that area. They don't want any stragglers. But from a humane standpoint, it could be any of us that needs help. And I don't want to be that community that dismisses those in need without making an effort to try to get them some help. So I just want to make sure that we have a plan. If it's just referring them to resources that we don't have, or housing that we don't have, I want to make sure that Riviera Beach is one of those that is trying to provide resources and help, and not just kicking them out of our community. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair?
Madam Chair.
Councilwoman Miller Anderson, and then Dr. Spears.
We do have that, and as he was stating, the police department, I don't know if they're, at some point, maybe to get with them, they're doing a really good job with it. So maybe you could get with them and they can give you a little more detail on it. Because I know they've done a lot off of Broadway area in the beach, under the bridge.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Guy, go ahead, Dr. Spears.
Okay, so I concur with my colleagues. I'm just wondering, I've been advocating for this for a long time as a member of the Housing Authority Board. Transient housing. Are you going to recommend permitting transient housing in certain districts?
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
So the first point when we talk about diverse housing types, this came from a lot of conversations with the different organizations that serve our community as well. And off the top of my head, I remember talking to Catholic Charities, and they were some of the work. They have lots of land here in our city, and some of the things that they wanted to do was do transient housing. But our plan doesn't allow that. Our plan does not give them that opportunity to do that. And so we start to recommend these things, understanding and knowing the need for housing and the need for transient housing. And so, yes, we do recommend for transient housing this time around. And in addition, our plan currently, as it stands right now, doesn't talk about our homeless population at all. And so now we are proposing more policies in order to support them, which would also leave way towards transient housing.
That's great, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
And when you include, the extra resources, make sure you include the Palm Beach County School District. I saw Representative Ferguson back there because they do a lot with the homeless and providing resources. So make sure that there's a connection with the school district for those who have children.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Just to mention the captain's name, Captain Glenn Meyer, I think it's the one that leads that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Major.
No. Jones gonna be there?
He's a major.
I thought it was
Jones.
I know that.
Well, I know the captain works closely with that program.
Yes.
He may not be the one in charge.
The Assistant Director, Nate Gordon, is over all of
Oh,
that.
over all of
Yes.
it. Okay. But yeah, I know Captain Meyer called me several times about Palm Tran assistance when they were trying to move them during the cold. A bell went out just now, but okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go
And
ahead.
just to add, that program with the district is called the McKinney-Vento program, if you want to be McKinney-Vento.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, the next element is the mobility element. We have renamed the state required transportation element into the mobility element in order to broaden what the focus is on, because many communities' transportation elements just basically talk about roadway levels of service. And obviously, the transportation needs in the city are much broader than that. So we put in policies that help move the city toward Vision Zero, as well as every kind of mode of transportation, from bikeways to walkways, trails, to the port, toward the movement of freight, trucks. A lot of that was not well thought out in the comprehensive plan, and there weren't a lot of policies to address that. So we added those into the plan, broadened the scope of it in order to give the city more ways to kind of regulate and organize how the transportation network works.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
the major modes in transportation, Riviera Beach has all four of them.
Yes.
The port, water, the railroad, train that run down the Boulevard City, I-95, 18-wheelers, and airport about 15 minutes away. One thing that we have not done was recruited those type of companies, as this to my colleagues, that could benefit from a city that have strong transportation modes. And that is something that I've always wanted to happen. Manufacturing, if you're manufacturing things, you need to move your product. You can move it on the water, you can put it on a train, or you can put it on an 18-wheeler right here in Riviera Beach. So it's important that we start promoting and recruiting those type of businesses that can benefit from our location and the transportation modes that run right through our city. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Go ahead.
The next element is the infrastructure element. We modified a lot of outdated language. Like I had said at the beginning that the plan hadn't been updated since 2010, and obviously there's been a lot of infrastructure projects that have occurred since then. So we updated that, as well as addressing the needs of the utility district. We got solicited policies directly from them to include in the plan, and added language to update the water supply plan, which is another requirement, and to, through that, have a policy that makes sure that that process emphasizes water quality protection, which has been an issue in the past as well, but was not thoroughly addressed in the comprehensive plan. In coastal management, we updated the protections, the policies that call for protections of coastal resources. That's both for environmental protection, but also for public and private use as well. And then created the, we are utilizing the adaptation action areas, which is kind of similar to like how we had the neighborhood action plans. The adaptation action areas would define different parts of the city along the coastline that have unique resiliency and protection requirements. So the plan also calls for that, and also for those action areas to promote resiliency going forward.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
So with the resiliency, were you looking at Singer Island, the submerged land area, which probably can use riprap or something additional? Because obviously we see the king tides are taking the water almost to North Ocean Drive. And did you also look at the ocean area? You know, we have coastal engineers working on that right now and coming up with some long-term solutions. So did you refer to long-term solutions for the beach as well? You know, whether it be groins or breakwaters or dredging or whatever. Did you get into detail on that?
Yeah, yes, we did. And there's even more detail in the supporting documentation. We actually had earlier on in the process, we had a separate consultant who specializes in environmental and coastal areas specifically. And she was the one who prepared that. So that's all in your documentation too.
Okay, great, thank you.
And then the related conservation element, we updated policies to now support air quality. That was one of the things that we heard from residents, the city being partly an industrial area and industrial areas being close to residential neighborhoods. Air quality was important and wasn't thoroughly addressed in the plan. We're creating working groups to support various types of environmental regulations and help push that out going forward. And the new health and a new focus on the health impacts of both extreme weather and pollution, because that was something that the current plan didn't really address at all, but we heard that was a major, major concern from residents. And then we have two new elements that we're including in the plan. So the state requires 10 elements be included and lists what all of those are. But it does allow for additional elements to be included. So one of the things we did, we also had a separate sub-consultant who helped develop an economic development element, which creates an economic development action plan. And again, we also have supporting data. We did a market analysis to support that. And that is all in the supporting documentation that goes along with the plan, as well as all new goals, objectives, and policies that relate to economic development, support for local businesses, recruitment of new businesses, and support for our industrial areas. And then all of that under the umbrella of fostering job growth, prosperity for the residents of the city, and particularly to have residents be able to be employed within the city in which they live, was a concern that came up throughout the public input that we got. So that is all included in the new economic development element. And then the second new element is the community resources element. This addresses the required public school facilities element and brings that up to date with the language that the school district now requires and the relationship between the district and the city. But it also brings in a whole bunch of other programs that the city provides and resources that the city provides that were not mentioned in the comprehensive plan at all. So now those will have policies. And again, we reached out to all of those different entities and solicited policies from them to make sure the comprehensive plan is calling for what they want, essentially. And then some of the smaller elements I'll just run through quickly: parks, recreation, and open space. Again, we added support for existing city programs, tied in connectivity and mobility, which was something we heard from the public about access to parks being a concern. And then also public-private initiative support. So like if development comes in and the city wants to, require developers, let's say, to add parks or recreation space, now we have some policies that can help govern that.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I think we went past the historic preservation.
Oh, yes, that was in the community resources.
Yes, so my question is, are you looking at historic vistas as well?
I'm sorry?
Historic vistas, views. A view can actually be listed on the National Register. So have you looked at things like coming over the Blue Heron Bridge and seeing the ocean and seeing the sun? Did you look at things like that?
We didn't, in the community resources element, we don't get into what the specifics are, but we do call for the creation of the historic society, and that could designate exactly what you're talking about.
I think it would be good if you spoke generally about historic vistas as well, because I think it's going to have a big impact on the future, of the city.
But I will make note. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Capital improvements element, minor changes just to basically the criteria for how the city should prioritize improvements that it's planning to make. And intergovernmental affairs is another small element, which the main thing was to add increased coordination between local municipal fire departments. That was a concern that we got directly from the fire department. And the next steps will obviously be to incorporate all of your suggestions and comments. And then we continue revising the draft plan and the proposed changes right through the end of the process and adoption by ordinance on second reading. In the, once you pass the ordinance to update the plan on first reading, then all of the updates will go to the State Department comments for the coordinated agency review. And then once all those comments are submitted, we incorporate that within the update and any changes that they require. And then the update is finally ready for adoption.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
I want to point out one or two other things before I introduce our second speaker related to the plan. One of the changes in our efforts to ensure that this is a plan that is a living, breathing document that actively informs our decisions, but also is accessible to the public was the formatting of it. We've revamped it so that every section has the equivalent of an executive summary, like half a page, where a resident can open our plan and understand exactly what coastal management is all about and what's covered inside of it. So it has those summaries, the guiding components of each one, so that this document is increased in its usage because of its user friendliness. And once it is adopted, even the graphic design of it and the electronic accessibility to it will all help this be accessible to the public and the utility of it be increased. So that's another significant change, even though it's just formatting and also being intentional about taking time to describe what each of the 12 elements is about. That is something that was a big difference that staff endeavored diligently on. We do have one more, our consultant related to the special preservation section. And as you all are aware, we've had multiple conversations on that. So we do have Amy Petrick here, Attorney Petrick, to let you all know where we ended after our individual conversations related to that. So I will yield to her at this time.
Good evening. Amy Petrick. I'm a shareholder with Lewis, Longman and Walker, and I have the pleasure to serve as your special counsel in a variety of litigation matters, and most of which are centered around property within the future land use designation area that is designated for special preservation. In the history of proceeding in some of that litigation, questions regarding how your comprehensive plan works with the special preservation future land use designation have come up. And one of the issues that is going to, has been talked about with staff for your consideration as part of your comprehensive plan amendments is addressing the relationship between a standalone ordinance that you have that talks about floating structures and liveaboard vessels and your comprehensive plan. And so one of the things that we've been discussing is adding language to your comprehensive plan that mirrors what your standalone ordinance governing floating structures used for residential purposes and liveaboard vessels, so that your comprehensive plan, in essence, speaks to what your standalone ordinance already says on those issues. And so that is the suggested change that we've been working on in that area. So I'm here if you have any questions on how that would work or what that would look like, or any areas that you would like for us to consider as we bring forward language during the comprehensive plan amendment process.
Sure.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Thank you, Amy. You're doing a great job for the city. We appreciate it. So with the submerged lands.
Yeah.
So are we going to make any changes, any tweaks to that preservation law?
So within your comprehensive plan right now, you've got what we've been kind of informally referring to as your savings clause, which talks about the preservation of judicially determined vested rights. That language remains as part of your comprehensive plan amendment. There's been some suggestion on clarifying a little bit that language as to how that operates if someone comes forward with a judicially determined vested right. Just kind of stating the fact that if you have a judicially determined vested right to fill or alter the land, and then you you've made a change to the land, then the council would have the ability to consider what is appropriate for that land moving forward in terms of future land use designation. But there's no changes that staff has been considering that moves the needle in terms of substantive rights on that side of the fence. The focus has mostly been on making sure that all of your documents speak to each other on what your policies already say with respect to floating homes and liveaboard vessels.
Madam Chair? So judicially, if we were to be overturned, and so you are making it a special exception, or you're recommending a special exception approved by the city council?
So a special exception is a zoning permission. The work that I've been doing with your staff so far has been focused on your comprehensive plan amendment policies. I think there is a concept that your land development regulations would be amended to implement what those policies would say. So that would be the next stage of policy development.
Okay, great.
Any other questions? Thank you. Sermon?
That's all from staff, Madam Chair.
Very good. Any questions in regards to this comprehensive plan presentation?
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. And Director Sermons and to your staff, thank you. This has been a conversation that we've had for a while now, and you guys have taken the bull by the horns. They say that we're supposed to do it every 10 years, and I think we've exceeded that tremendously, but the fact that you guys were able to address them, bring a lot of recommendations, and get a lot of community engagement. I saw that we had 4 public charrettes, community charrettes, publicly noticed. Are we planning on doing any additional charrettes?
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
At this time, we do not have any additional public charrettes planned. The latest one was yesterday, actually, and where we collected additional information from the community. But the way we view it right now is we are at the point where we have intentionally reached out to the community multiple times in multiple ways to produce what's before you now. The next step would be taking this before the Planning and Zoning Board, which is the required step by the state agency regulating this, and then to City Council for first reading. Now, if there's unreadiness to what's been presented, we can absolutely do additional work in that area. But at this moment, we do not have additional charrettes or community meetings planned. But I do want to note that what you have before you is the result of numerous community meetings, but also going to the community where they are and giving them the opportunity to provide feedback from their homes as well through making this information available online.
Are there any additional opportunities for feedback from the community between now and bringing it before the board? I know that we have the general meeting with the planning board, but is there anything else that's going to be happening between now and then?
So, Ms. Simon will jump in if I misstate anything. The website is still up, so we are still open to receive comments.
Good.
The Planning and Zoning Board is a public hearing where the meeting date is public, and the community can come and provide additional feedback to the Planning and Zoning Board, who is your recommending body when it comes to land development decisions. So that is a community public meeting that has effectively allowed the community to speak, and then the transmittal or first reading of it is an additional opportunity for the community to speak their opinions and feelings about this. And if directed by council, of course, you don't have to vote to transmit. You could say, hey, some of these comments, we want to make sure that you do this or implement this before it is transmitted. So it's not in stone by any means, but of course, at some point we have to move away from the public workshop phase and get the actual text before you, so you can weigh in. But again, we serve at your pleasure. So however we're directed, we will move forward.
So website's up and running, the board meeting will be some additional opportunities. And the reason I ask is because I've heard feedback from the community after the last posting, but me knowing that you've had multiple charrettes, multiple in-person meetings and multiple conversations, I think that we've done a fairly good job of letting the community know about these meetings. We've advertised it, we've consistently gotten feedback and details, but if there's any other engagement that they would like to give, they can give it on the website right now. There's going to be at the P&Z meeting, and those would be sufficient because I've seen them and I've seen firsthand the work that you guys done. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for the work and for finally bringing this, because we have to have a clear understanding of the comprehensive plan so that we can actually continue to build the city in the direction we're trying to do. So thank you to staff. Thank you, Ms. Evans.
Madam Chair.
Sure.
I was going to say something, then I'll come to you and Mrs. Curtis. Yes, I definitely want to thank you all for what you've done to get the community's input, because I know you have participated in homeowner association meetings, you've been in neighborhood association meetings, even when there were other community events going on in the community, you all were there. So I think you have gone above and beyond trying to get the community's input. And, you know, as much as we try to get everyone's input, we just won't do it. But I'm glad to know the website is still available, so they still have an opportunity to weigh in if they're just now finding out about it. But, and you all have been doing this for well over a year, probably more than that, I would say. Time has flown by, but you have really tried to address the community's issues, give them an opportunity to speak. And so I you know, and sometimes I think we beat up on like we're not doing enough. We're doing a lot, and we're doing probably a lot more than what some other communities do. But a lot of times it's kind of, you know, it's made to be in the negative instead of the positive sometimes. But you're doing a lot. And I think that just speaks to how we want to make sure that the community is a part of it. We're not trying to push anything down anybody's throat. We're giving you an opportunity to speak. And so I just want to thank you all for the opportunities that have been made for the community to participate. Councilwoman Davis Premier.
And I agree with my colleagues. And if you want to post that QR code again, because I remember having, you know, social media and sharing that code and asking people to just do it with their phone. So for this last push, if we can put that out there again. But I also had a great suggestion yesterday, and Councilperson Kashamba and Mayor Lawson, one of the parents was saying that if we could do a small brief presentation to our youth council, that would be great, because we're talking about 2040. Those are the people that will really be, you know, impacted, you know, at that time. So if we can do something brief, I think that would be great. Give them some, you know, opportunity to provide some feedback. And as we said, in 2040, they'll be the ones working and looking for housing in our city. So I thought that was a great idea.
Sure. So, Director Sermons, Principal Planner Simon, my hat is off to you. You did a great job. I'm very proud of the work that you did. Like I said, I've had a lot of experience in master plans and comprehensive plans. You did an excellent job, and I'm really looking forward to implementing these sections of the plans. I've been to at least 3 of your workshops so far with the community, and the community was very excited, very involved, and it was just great to see it. And you did a great job. Thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you to you all. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad, Councilwoman. You know, we have these hyphenated and extra names, and it just becomes so difficult. You know, I'm Councilwoman Kashamba now, so I mean, it's difficult. It's a mouthful, but yes. So we did talk about the youth council being able to give a little input. We do have a meeting tomorrow that's scheduled. I don't know if you all have a couple of minutes to pop by. We start at 6 o'clock at the library. Not putting you on the spot. I mean, we don't have to do it tomorrow. We can do it another way. But if you are available, we can definitely squeeze you in on the agenda.
Understood. We do have our planning and zoning board meeting tomorrow evening.
All right. Okay.
But yeah,
so
if you send us the
we'll
schedule.
figure it out. Yeah, we'll get you in. All right. Anything else for this item, Mr. Evans or Mr. Sermon?
Nothing additional from staff.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, item 2B.
Madam Chair, at this time, we'd ask for the Director of Procurement to come up and talk about proposed modifications to the procurement code.
All right. Hello.
Hello. Good evening. Latanya Ammons, Director of Procurement for the City of Riviera Beach. And today, or tonight, I have proposed several changes to the procurement code. And so we're just going to walk through. There are about 6 main areas, so let's walk through. So to begin with, for procurement, we operate under several governing laws, policies, and procedures depicted here on the slide. That's the federal law, Florida law, the Palm Beach County Code of Ethics, the Riviera Beach Code of Ordinances, procurement policy and procedures, purchasing card policy, and all things surrounding procurement. But for tonight's conversation, we're going to talk about the Code of Ordinances. And so the purpose of today's presentation is to provide the council with an overview of the proposed updates to Chapter 16.5 of the city's Code of Ordinances related to procurement. These recommended revisions are intended to strengthen the city's procurement framework, enhance transparency and accountability. And this presentation will also provide an opportunity for council input and policy guidance as we continue to refine and modernize the procurement code. Procurement is the heart of an organization. We protect public funds, we protect fairness and access, and we protect the organization and this body. And so to level set, every major initiative, capital project, public service, infrastructure, and economic development purchase passes through procurement. So if procurement is strong, the organization functions with integrity. And if it is weak or outdated, risk spreads across the entire system. And so here are 6 areas for discussion tonight. The first one will be Article 1, changes or proposed changes to the general provisions and definitions. Article 2, the Office of the Purchasing Agent. Article 3, procurement methods and competitive processes. Article 8 contains the bid protest. Section 2-166, the cone of silence. And last, Article 10, the local vendor preference. So definitions. The problem statement can be summarized as the existing procurement definitions require revision and expansion to ensure clarity, consistency, and alignment with modern procurement practices. I guess the root cause of this problem is that the definition section has not been comprehensively updated to reflect current procurement technology, industry standards, statutory references, and operational tools. And so my desired outcome is to update and expand the definition sections to provide clear, consistent terminology that reflects current procurement practices and supports effective administration of the city's procurement program. So in the attached document to the agenda was the code, and I didn't present it here because it is a lot of work and just very detailed. And so for tonight's purpose, just high level, the definitions, right? We've revised and we've added definitions for proposed change. Article 2 is the Office of the Purchasing Agent. And in this one, the problem statement is that, again, the procurement code requires qualification and modernization of the authority, the duties, and the role of the purchasing agent or director of procurement. The root cause for the change is the court and ordinance language does not fully reflect the structure, the oversight responsibility, and the regulatory authority. And the desired outcome is to clarify and modernize the ordinance language to define the authority, duties, and oversight. So there weren't a lot of just changes, again, a lot of cleanup, but there is one major section that I did want to point out for tonight, or one proposed addition change. Will be section 16.5-45, and that is the purchase order requirement.
And what this particular additional language does in this entire section is to require all spend above a certain threshold amount to be put on a purchase order. That ensures compliance with the code, that minimizes the risk. And so everything is above board. Not assuming that it hasn't happened before. I'm just stating that the code is going to state that all spend must be, except for rent, utilities, intergovernmental organizations, and those day-to-day charges, monthly recurring charges that we can't avoid. They do not need to be on a purchase order. And so that minimum line, which in my draft is negative because it depends on further conversation that we're going to have tonight as far as that threshold. So that is the one proposed additional change that I wanted to highlight for tonight in Article 2, the Office of the Purchasing Agent. So number 3 is the procurement method and competitive process. And the problem statement for this change is that the provisions governing source selection and contract formation require clarification and modernization. The root cause is the existing language doesn't fully reflect current procurement operations, including the solicitation method, evaluation, negotiation practices, and contract award administration. And the desired outcome is to modernize and clarify Article 3 to ensure that those methods and processes and procedures are clearly defined, consistently applied, and aligned with the current operational practices and public procurement standards. So for this one, there is an ask on the floor from procurement. Article A states currently that the condition of use for all contracts of the city exceeding $25,000 must be awarded by competitive sealed bidding. I am asking the council to consider raising that limit to 50,000 or 100,000. And what does that look like and what does that mean? First, the advantages of it is improved efficiency by reducing the number of purchase orders that could require a lengthy formal process. Secondly, allows departments to procure routine goods and services more quickly and enables the procurement department to focus on higher value and higher risk. It encourages greater participation from the small and local businesses and just aligns the city's procurement practice with modern municipal procurement standards. And on my next slide, I'll show you what the other cities' thresholds are. So if we can see this, Boca has a threshold limit of $65,000 for non-construction and above $150,000 for construction. That means that at above 65 must go out for public solicitation, but for construction, they above 150. Delray Beach is 65,000. Green Acres is 35,000. Jupiter is 50. Lake Worth Beach is 50. Palm Beach Gardens is 65. The Village of Palm Springs is 35. We are at 25. The Village of Royal Palm Beach is 50. And West Palm Beach is 50 for goods and services and $100,000 for construction. And this research was completed a couple of months ago. So if there has been a change, I want to state that now that I wasn't aware, but we did do the research.
Madam Chair, question. So you're asking for, and let me back up. The threshold now before it has to go out to public solicitation is 25,000.
Yes, sir.
So anything above that, it has to go out for public, what is it?
Public solicitation.
Public solicitation, that's what I'm looking for. So if the threshold were to be raised, contracts can be issued without public solicitation. But how would that selection process work?
If I understand your question correctly, if there's a contract that we want to award for, let's say, $40,000, how is that selection awarded? It is the same way it's awarded now. The city manager would have the authority to award a contract up to $50,000. The way the code is currently written. So Mr. Evans has authority up to 25, and so he makes a determination for those particular awards. And procurement has the ability as well.
I was gonna say, Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm
Are
still
you,
here.
are you?
No, I have another
Okay.
question. So this would give the city manager the authority to issue contracts beyond whatever we decide that threshold is.
Yes, sir, it would allow procurement and the city manager to award up to that threshold.
I'm gonna make a comment. There have been some decisions made that don't relate to procurement, but that threshold being used as what a city manager has authority up to this amount. But I know it originated with procurement, but it's been used for severance packages and other issues, and it just gets out of hand if it's not specific to an issue. Um, right now, some believe that that's just an authority that he can use for whatever. But I knew it was for procurement. So I have reservations unless we be very clear about what it can be used for. This is not for anyone to use it at will on other issues, employment issues, and all those other type of crazy things. So those are my comments. I have reservations about this.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
So, you said it's the way it's currently done, so with procurement, is this where you all ask for like three, you reach out to, say if you're talking about contractors, you reach out to three, tell them to put a bid in, or is that what?
Yes. If I can share the next screen.
Okay.
All right, so the next screen is I created this quick procurement quick reference guide that I've shared, with all directors and anyone who needs it. So you can see right now that anything less than $2,500, that's how you can procure an item if you go across either a purchase order or a P card, and what's needed is a quote on procurement. The next line is 2,500 to 25,000. We would need 3 written quotes. So that is what, if someone
Greater than 25?
2,500 to 25,000 on the second
Or
line.
2,500, okay.
Yes, you can use a purchase order or a P card. There's an asterisk at the bottom, it's approval, but then there's 3 quotes, and then the approval required is procurement. Meaning if someone has a $10,000 spend, and they provide the 3 quotes, the procurement will approve the purchase order when it's the lowest quote. And there are some exceptions: cooperative agreement, a sole source or a single source, right? The next line, the third line across, is if it's up to 25,000, it's a professional services contract. The documentation is a fully executed contract. And so that will be procurement and city manager. And I also want to say that it was all legal. Legal's there approving all of the contracts, but just from a quick, reference guide, if you have a professional services contract, it is $20,000. You can have it approved at the city manager level. And then the 4th row across identifies sole sources, which again, they have to be approved. And you see in the last column, if it's less than 25, procurement can approve via, the requisition or PO process, but above that, it has to come to city council. Same with a single source, the emergency justification, that's with the city manager office. And then we have solicitation and piggybacks at the bottom and cooperative agreement. Less than 25 stays in procurement, above 25 comes to the council.
I'm sure.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so what I think I'm getting from this is that we're raising, right now, for example, the city manager can spend up to $25,000 without the city council's approval, correct? So you want to raise that. And I have no issue with raising that. I just think that we should get monthly reports from the city manager if we do this. And I think we have to make sure that these funds are audited, that they're included in the audit. Because, technically, the city manager could spend 25,000, 300 times during the year. So we have to keep a hold on the budget, and the city council has to be aware of how much money is actually going out. So I just think that there has to be a check. For example, the city council has the authority after that month to put a cap or to change the regulation if we feel it's being abused. And I'm not saying our city manager is going to abuse it, but I just think that there has to be some sort of fail-safe system in there that the city council can use if we think that this system is being abused.
If I may, on my next slide, I'll show you what that option looks like. At the $50,000 level, procurement is asking that, well, using that same methodology from a mathematical perspective, quotes less than 5. We only need 1 quote. So we move that number. If we want to move the threshold, we kind of move the other numbers to be in line with the 50,000. And so spend between 5,000 and 50,000 will need 3 quotes. And then up to 50, again, it's the procurement approval and city manager. And so the changes are represented in red, how that would look.
So let me ask you a question, Ms. Evans. I don't see any charts in the stuff that you have in the backup.
No, ma'am. I just completed the slides recently. I can send
Send them to
everyone
us,
the slides. Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair,
Let's go ahead.
if this were to be approved, which I have reservations, it should be strictly for professional service, or not just professional services, but for goods and services that we need. Not employment-related issues, and I got this authority to go up to 50,000. No, just goods and services. I'm talking to my colleagues now. And that should be very clear about the restrictions of this increase, if it were to be passed. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay,
Madam Chair?
let's go ahead.
Thank you. Director Emmons, the reporting, I believe Councilman Spiritus mentioned the reporting, and what does that reporting look like? My only hesitation with this is that we've requested as a board a disparity study back in 2019. And to this day, I do not have the data for a disparity study to be completed. So I don't know where the spending is going when it comes to this amount, whether it's 25 or 50, because I want to make sure we can track local, women, minorities, small businesses. Regardless of the language on a national level, we still need the data. So Director Emmons or Mr. Evans, where are we in regards to the data collection of participation in contracting?
If I may, the council approved a contract with a company called Prism several months ago, and we are working with them, and we have meetings weekly about installing and having the new data, to be able to have the data available. We have had some hiccups along the way, and the hiccups were just system related, right? Tyler talking to Prism talking to Tyler. We've made some movement. We've decided to use the contracts module in Tyler to help with this endeavor of not only tracking the contracts and knowing where all of that spend is, but to have the data for the disparity study. However, it's a chicken before the egg race, right? We want one thing, and then we talk to Tyler, and then, okay, well, we need to do these things. Okay, great. So we kind of put Prism on hold in this particular area. So with the data, we've been able to successfully upload, with the help of IT, the PO data. We're just now waiting on the contract data and the payment data. And so
50% of the way. The team said it's kind of hard to put a percent on it because you think you're there and then you have a hiccup. But I can say we are moving expeditiously to have it fully implemented so we can begin to run the data and get the board and council exactly what they needed. But it's just taking us a little longer because we didn't know, like the fields and the data integration is what's the holdup.
Follow up, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
And a little longer is an understatement because there's been a high turnover in the few departments. And um, being that you've been here for a year, but this direction was given to the council in 2019, and it was unanimously supported to be done and completed. And the fact that we still don't have the data, we've requested multiple organizations come in to review and capture data. I'm not sure if it can be done shorthand where we can just get a pencil and pen and make a phone call, but I don't understand why we just do not have the data. And that's my only hesitation because I absolutely support the manager having the authority to increase it as long as the data substantiates where the money is going. And our goal is to support local vendors. So that's where we have to make sure that if we do decide to increase this, what does the reporting requirements look like and how do we make sure it's properly documented? And how do we incentivize local women, minority businesses, and make sure those dollars that we're spending are staying in the city and we can circulate that money more in our community. So it's just the reporting for transparency for our residents, one, but then I'm very concerned with the lack of data collection for our disparity study. So I know you've given us some oversight as to where we are. I want to know when is it going to be complete?
Excuse me, wait. Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
Mayor has been here for 1 year. We have a city manager been here since 2019. Those questions should be directed at him. Well, where's the data? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Ms. Hammond.
So I don't have a final date. If I say January 1 and then it's September, then I exceeded my goal. So this is March. And I say October 1. And then I'll come back and report and I'll know exactly. Hopefully I reach it by October 1 as far as the implementation. And if not, I have an exact answer as to why not.
When you say October 1, what does that mean exactly?
October 1 for prison will be fully implemented and we can have the first report.
And then we will start collecting data.
We will start collecting the data, yes.
Okay. And colleagues, to that point, with whatever change happens in politics, governance, or policy, and say DEI, disparity, local participation, vendors, say that we change that on a national conversation. We don't have the data because based upon the conversation we had with Franklin Lee, we need about 5 years of data to complete a disparity study. And we would be starting, as Ms. Hammond said, October 1. So we have to start having documented data to justify moving forward with policy decisions. Because this is a policy decision where we're going to increase it and give flexibility to our city manager. But I still feel uncomfortable because I haven't got something that I voted on with 3 of my board members that are still here in 2019 unanimously to support a disparity study. So being that we're still not completed with it, what does that clad type documentation look like from our procurement department? Because Ms. Hammond, you're saying that we're not going to start collecting it till October. So what does documentation and referral look like so that we can make sure the increase is going towards local or SBEs? How can we make sure that we document and what kind of reporting, what will that reporting look like for us? And how often will that come to us on that reporting scale?
So I just want to clarify that we have some of the data, we just don't know what it looks like, meaning we know what our PO spend has been, but our system just didn't categorize it as a local, a SBE, or a minority or veteran-owned business. And so I think the monthly reporting, I envision it as actually showing the actual spend and the categories of the spend for that particular month, right? This is what went out the door, and this is the category every month is what I am, that's the goal.
Well, Director Emmons, as you know, that's not the goal to get a disparity study because the category of spending has to be identified as SPE, has to be identified as local. Local, as you said, is Riviera Beach, then Palm Beach County. So it has to be clearly identified. And if we don't have those markers, we don't collect or have data. So that's based on the conversations that our professionals and that the consultants have brought in to tell us. So we're going around something that we've asked for years. My concern is I can support this if we have an idea of how often the reporting is going to look like. The county did a disparity study, the city of West Palm and the school board all did disparity studies, but they took 5 to 10 years to collect that data. And then when it finally was implemented, they were able to create programmings from that study. We can't even piggyback on that because we still don't have the data to justify piggybacking. So understanding the bare minimum, I just want to know how often will this be reported from Mr. Evans, city manager and procurement, when we increase the spending, and how do we prioritize local SBE or even small business for this spending?
So the spend will be, the reports will be monthly.
Yep.
And they will be categorically laid out the way you just outlined it. The system can do that. For this particular purpose, we will reflect all of the spend, and that ties into the ask also of all of the purchases above a particular threshold are put on a purchase order, so we're able to collect all of the particular data, right, that's needed. And so I believe I can have your data in all the formats that you need, starting October 1.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
moving forward, I think that we should make it very clear that whatever amount we agree on, currently it's 25, that signing authority is strictly for goods and services. And it hasn't been used strictly for that in the past. And I brought it up at a city council meeting, severance packages, giving people money to leave the city. That needs to stop. It needs to, his signing or her, whoever the city manager is, signing authority needs to be only for goods and services. And I hope that I can get the majority of the city council to agree to that moving forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And moving forward, how do we put that in place as a part of?
Madam Chair, I think that would be a question for our city attorney.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I got a question. So well, I'm just trying to think, what are 25? Okay, no, I'll come back. Let me think on what I'm trying to say with it.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Guy.
Yes, I threw that question to Ms. Nguyen. Councilwoman Davis Bernier asked, how do we institute restricting the city managers, whoever the city manager is, signing authority just for goods and services and not using it for anything else?
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
we can make it clear in the ordinance. I did have a question, though. Does that still also include professional services agreements? Because right now, the manager has the authority to enter into professional services agreements. So let's say with a consultant for up to $25,000. If we increase the amount to 50, does that still apply to those?
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I would suggest that if it's professional services, that needs to come before us. And I'm gonna tell you why. Sometimes there are studies and information retrieved that we don't even know about. And that's because they have a signing authority that doesn't have to come to us. The finance director went out and got an attorney to get a legal opinion and all this crazy stuff. We need to know what's going on with the public funds. So if there is some professional services, including legal. We need to know about it before they go spend that money.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I believe that I heard Dr. Spiritus make a recommendation that I would encourage you all to adopt or consider, and that would be that a contracts list basically comes to you every month, telling you who the manager, up to his authority, entered into a contract with and for what services. A lot of governmental bodies do that. Um, to put every contract on your agenda is not necessarily considered efficient, especially at such a low threshold.
Okay, I can deal with the reporting. But my point is that there need to be more accountability. That's where I'm going.
We can institute a contracts list that comes before you once a month, probably. I would say at your first meeting of every month, you would have a contracts list.
Madam Chair?
Right, Madam Chair?
Hold on a second. Councilwoman Miller Anderson?
And so you're saying to, well, I guess the group is saying to do that if you increase it to the 50?
No, I'm saying we need to institute that now with what it is, 25 grand. Moving forward, we need to put more restrictions on this. It's too loose now.
Well, I mean, I think, if we're gonna do that, we need to, and I know this is not a CRA, but we need to make
Oh,
sure we
absolutely.
do
I would
across the
agree.
board,
I
attorney,
would agree.
everybody, if that's the case.
I'm with that.
I, I mean, Mr. Evans is in the seat right now, but, over the years, there'll be a number of people probably that will be in that seat. And I don't, sometimes, people may have a preferred vendor or someone that they know, and they say, hey, well, can you, this person needs a contract. And a prime example, I won't call it out too much, but I mean, it happened in a public meeting. And that had happened, a couple of times, and I had an issue with it because it was a concern for me. But it didn't come to us. So, and that's been, that has happened. So that's why I'm good with the 25. I think when you bump it up, you have more of that happening. And we can have the contracts list, but what are you gonna do about it? You already gave authorization for it to be done. So, I mean, what are you gonna change? I mean, you can always change it, but that just put an exclamation point for me as to why I had an issue with that, and that was known. But yeah, I'm good with the 25. I don't.
Well, I am too, to be honest.
And I'm talking across the board.
Across the board with
CRA, everything.
CRA. But there needs to be more restrictions on what they can use it for. Goods and services, I guess professional services.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
So listening to the board's conversation, I'm quite comfortable with the amount that's already provided. I will encourage the board to consider, as provided for in other municipalities, the ability for construction and or a good, right? A pump goes down at the utility district is $50,000. We have to then come to the city council or deem it an emergency to help facilitate that. So if it's the board's pleasure, I would like the board to consider something as it relates to, if it's construction that I've got to fix a stretch of sidewalk or a piece of pavement or those types of things, that we could effectively do that. And we can explore what other municipalities, but I'm quite fine with the amount that's provided for in the code. But I will tell you that there has been many of times where we've had to declare things an emergency on the utility district side to help facilitate getting motors and pumps and other items.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
So I hear Mr. Evans, but I guess my concern is that we have to find aggressive, creative ways to help with small businesses and local businesses, giving them the flexibility and the ability to go out to these vendors. Director Emmons or Attorney Nguyen, is there a limit or max that a individual vendor can receive annually without a public solicitation? Are they capped? Because I've heard vendors come to me and say, "Oh, I've received the max that they can do for the year."
25. Yes, and
Okay.
it's 25,000.
So, and I know then that was a question for the board because Ms. Miller Anderson said there are vendors that have been, they keep touching the well because they were capped at, well, I'm sorry, they were able to receive up to 25,000 for either work, services, labor, because they may be a quote unquote preferred. We've heard it publicly, but I think that also gives us an opportunity with the reporting to see who has and who's receiving this, because we need to do a job of seeing exactly who's getting these contracts, because I can agree with Mr. Evans, services, goods, and I'm okay with professional services. I would want to ask the board to give that flexibility to staff to allow for them to use locals, to use SPs, and to be able to increase that spending authority with a reporting structure behind it. And let us give them a better opportunity to benefit and support some of the locals when it comes to some of the securing of goods, some of the procurement process, and some of the construction that needs to be done. Because those smaller jobs, there's not that many between the range of 25 to 50K that Mr. Evans won't be able to procure or secure locally if we can increase that opportunity. So that's why I want to give him that chance with the reporting.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm trying to get this straight. So the city manager can give, let's say, a $25,000 professional contract to an engineering firm, correct?
Correct.
Without coming to us. He could then give another $25,000 the next month to the same engineering firm.
No.
No, he's limited to that 25,000. That's
During
it.
the
It's got to
fiscal
stop right there.
Correct.
Okay, but he can give it to another engineering firm.
Yes, a different engineering firm for 25,000.
Okay, no problem raising it because we have to look at inflation. Board, this 25,000 has been on the books for a long time, and inflation, we're not getting really what we had years ago. 25,000 doesn't go very far. I have no problem raising the money. I don't know what everybody wants to go with, but I just think that it should be reported to us and can only be used one time. And once again, we should have a fail safe where we can stop the process if we want. If we feel it's being abused, we could stop it. So that should be in the ordinance that a majority of the council, if they're reading the reports, can make a motion to stop the use of this type of spending, for whatever time period we want to do it for, for the end of the fiscal year or whatever.
Madam Chair,
No, go ahead.
just to follow up to that, this is just a policy change. So we would just bring it back before the board if after.
Wait, no, it's not just a policy change. Because I suggested that it be restricted to goods and services, and that has to go into an ordinance. Am I correct, Ms. Nguyen?
That's correct.
Yeah, no,
So
no.
we're making it restrictive to
Yeah,
just goods and services
just
based
goods
upon the
and services.
recommendation. Thank you, sir.
What else is there besides goods and services?
He's been using it for employment-related issues, and I brought it before the board for severance packages and the signing authority. That's craziness.
What about professional services
Yeah,
contract?
I'm okay with that.
So goods and professional services.
Yes.
So that cancels out, I mean, I don't know that this has been happening, and I'm not saying that Mr. Evans is doing it, but, providing like purchasing tables. I'm sure we haven't purchased $25,000 worth of tickets or tables, but, huh? Good. Not when I say tables, I'm talking to an event.
Oh, you mean event? Okay.
Nobody's buying tables.
We bought tables.
What does that fall under?
I don't know what that for. What
I-
this is.
well, all you
I mean, I don't think no one has spent that kind of money, but I mean, and I'm talking over the years, and I'm not just talking about current with Mr. Evans.
Yeah, no, we can budget for
that
that.
kind of
That's a good
stuff,
question.
going to the
Where's that
city
fall?
manager, somebody goes to the city manager, hey, can you,
What does that fall under?
donate this?
That comes out of his promotional budget.
Yeah.
And so it's not considered
I'm
under
sure that's,
procurement, correct?
I'm pretty sure we're beyond the promotional budget. I mean,
You didn't think so?
when you all purchase tables and things, we purchased quite a few tables recently.
But
And
probably,
it's coming out of
I'm gonna say that
promotional,
now.
all of it?
Madam Chair, if I may. Yeah, that would come out of promotion or any legally available funds that we have. So if there's a situation where there's a vacancy in an operation and we have the money, as long as we don't overexpend, we would utilize that. So, those types of events and activities, as long as you don't overspend your budget.
Okay, okay.
So there's going to be an ordinance change that needs to come before us to restrict it to goods and services and professional services, so that it can be used for what it was originally intended for: procurement related issues.
Yes,
So
sir.
we're gonna do the 50,000 for those specific items. Okay.
This is for, procurement, a city manager, city attorney, everybody.
It'll be across the board
Right.
and we would have to bring the same
On CRA and utility
to
district.
CRA to utility district.
Yeah.
Yes.
CRA get the same restriction.
I mean, I don't agree with the 50. Y'all are going to 50, is that what you're saying?
I don't know.
Did
Madam
you all
Chair?
say 50
Yes,
yet?
I agree with the 50 when it's limited to those three things.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead,
Yeah,
sir.
so are we going to include the utility district in this?
No, we're gonna do it at their meeting,
We'll do it at the meeting?
at our meeting, yeah.
Okay.
So what are we going to?
50.
We got 3 people saying that?
I am.
I mean, do it.
I'm saying it's 25.
What are you saying? What's your number? I'm 25.
I'm 25.
The rest of y'all?
I can go.
I could do 50, because it would be limited to those three items. And if it's 50, 25, I don't have to see all of that, but the 50, I would like to see it.
And
Not
Madam,
saying we have to vote on it, but bring it back, not bring it back, but
A
like a
report.
monthly report, like you were saying, yeah.
now with the construction related issues, a pump go down and things like that, that's a different, and we'll deal with that in the utility district.
Right.
All right, so what?
But roadway, sidewalks, what does that fall under? Construction?
Those are goods and services.
It's an emergency.
Construction.
Construction would be a commodity, right?
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
We have pumps on fire trucks. We have, a variety of different things that easily can exceed that. So there's, AC condenser or compressors and, AC units go out. There's a lot of things that would exceed that. And that's primarily some of the challenges you have with some of the items that we have to put on your agenda for the purposes of approval, because, we can't buy the $35,000 piece of equipment that we need, and we have to wait or deem it an emergency to be able to do that.
So how has it been dealt with now? It's just been deemed an emergency?
It just comes to the council as an emergency.
It comes to procurement as an emergency.
It's deemed an emergency, so it doesn't have to come to us? Or does it come to us afterwards? After the purchase?
No one's we aren't trying to avoid coming to council. It's just, if it's
Trying to
deemed an
figure out how's
emergency,
it
right.
done now?
Right.
How's it
So if it's deemed an emergency, it doesn't have to come to council. But we do, the departments fill out a form. We have the form. It is attached to the purchase order. It tells the story. So it's not just, hey, I need one. No, they have to sign that it is an emergency. It is a process.
And who makes that determination that that is an emergency? Does the procurement do, does the department director do, or does it fall at the city manager?
Procurement does, and I promise you,
That's it.
yeah, that's it.
You deem it as an emergency, and that's as far as it goes. Okay.
Correct.
Mr. Guy?
I'm done.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
No,
sir.
I just think that the city manager, there should be a checks and balance here. I think that besides procurement, the city manager should also authorize it as an emergency.
Yes, so, go ahead.
Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
From an operational perspective, the departments do communicate that to me, and then I instruct them to go follow the process and work with the procurement director. So I'm aware of the emergency. It's not a situation where they just go to the director and there's coordination. She does talk to me and say, Mr. Evans.
Is that written in the ordinance like that?
I don't think it's prescribed in the ordinance. It's just a matter of practice.
It
So
needs to be prescribed that way. I don't know if that could be an operational thing or a policy thing. I'm not sure if it lands as high as the ordinance, but it needs to be written somewhere that that's how it works.
And Madam Chair, I'll get back with you all. Emergency purchases are in the ordinance. I didn't bring my laptop, but they are in the ordinance, and it does give direction on approval. I think when I came and started with the city manager was approving it, but by the ordinance, if memory serves me correctly, procurement does authorize it. But by practice, it was going to the city manager by practice. And so we wrote a memo because at first the power was just too high from an operational perspective. But I think with working with the departments and really outlining what is urgent versus an emergency, the number has decreased a lot because everyone says, "Oh, I need it." But if you waited 3 weeks, it's not quite an emergency, and it's urgent. And so through those instructions and training, the number has decreased a lot to what people really deem as an emergency. So
yeah, that's why I was saying that, because if the operational policy and procedures have to reflect the ordinance. So if you're having this process that's going to the city manager and he's aware of it, then that needs to be written in the policy, which corresponds to the emergency that's in the ordinance.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want the board to be aware, and the city manager brought this up, a pump in the, a water pump in the firehouse could be $50,000. And it could, it's something that has to be done. So I don't think we should, I think we should stick with the $50,000 number. Just small pumps in just buildings, are $30,000, $40,000. So I think the number that we're thinking about, the 25, it sounds great to keep it low, but it's not going to be effective. I don't think we're really going to get what we need. We need done.
Okay, go ahead.
But that doesn't stop us from moving forward and getting it. There's still a process in place to allow them to move forward with it. I've been here for a while. I've worked with several different people, and everybody's not the same. So I think for accountability purposes and just keeping keeping things transparent, the 25 for me is where I am. Again, Ms. Evans is here today. What we're talking about right now is
For the
future.
entire.
Yeah. But again, I'm one person. You all, let's not continue let's figure it out and move on, because it's 8:30.
Yes.
At 9.
So
we say
I'll
nine?
skip the next slide because it was option B based upon $100,000.
Okay, go. No.
100,000.
Our workshops are to take the deep dive,
Skip that one.
and we should not have had all of these items on this agenda. Take your time.
Share. So
Article 8. Article 8 is appeals and remedies, really, or known as protests. And that is the area that I have proposed some changes. So the problem is the protest procedures require clarification to ensure that the process is fair, efficient, and limited to parties with proper standing. The root cause is there's some ambiguity in the procurement code. And then the desired outcome is to clearly define the protest rights, establish appropriate procedural requirements, and ensure the protest process is administered fairly, consistently, and in a manner that protects the integrity of the procurement process. And so the proposed changes in your package, wanted to highlight that one, it will require a protest bond to discourage frivolous posts and allow the city to recover administrative costs if the protester does not prevail. It establishes that protests are intended only to address material, procedural, or legal errors in the procurement process. In other words, you cannot protest because you are upset that you are number 6 and not number 1. It requires the protest to include a detailed factual and legal grounds preventing vague or unsupported protest filings. You cannot take a look at everyone's proposals, come back, do your own evaluation, and say, I should have been at this level and not. It clarifies that the protest must be filed within 5 days after the protester becomes aware of the issue and proven certainty and timeliness. And it prevents vendors from using the protest process to challenge solicitation terms, evaluation criteria, scoring formulas, and methods after proposals are submitted. The protest language allows for them to protest while the solicitation is open through the end of the question and answer period. So someone shouldn't protest because, again, they're not number 1 and say, oh, I don't agree with the factors. They had that the time to do that while the solicitation was open. And then it just identifies circumstances where a non-responsive proposal is not eligible to file a protest. And so that is kind of the highlights of the new detailed protest language. Here is a chart that shows what the protest bonds are for some cities around us. So City of Delray Beach has a 1% of the protester's bid or $5,000, whichever is less. The City of Palm Beach Garden charges $10,000 or 10% of the protester's bid, whichever is greater. Lake Worth Beach is $1,000 for procurement values of $50,000 or less, $5,000 for procurement valued at $50,000 or more. Palm Beach County is $1,000 for solicitations less than $1 million, $3,000 for solicitations 1 to 5 or greater. And then I am proposing a 5% of the value of the protester's bid bond or $5,000, whichever is less.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
and
go ahead.
currently we don't have this.
We do
bond
not
in
have
place.
one, that is correct.
Okay.
That's why this is what I'm proposing.
Is
Madam
that,
Chair?
can I
Yes,
do a
go ahead.
follow-up?
Yes.
And obviously that's common because other municipalities have it. Okay.
Yes, it's common.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I happen to like the Palm Beach Gardens one. I think it's in between. We don't want to make it too easy for people to protest. You know, $5,000 on a major project is nothing to a developer or a large contractor. I think we have to, $5,000 is nothing. I think we have to, up it. I would go with the $10,000 and whichever is higher. That Palm Beach Gardens has. I think that's somewhere in between.
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Ms. Ames, what did you recommend, or did you make a recommendation?
The recommendation I proposed in the draft was 5% or $5,000, whichever is less. And Dr. Spirit is suggesting 10,000. So if someone wants to protest because of a material or legal error, they can protest and they have to pay a bond.
Non-refundable? Oh, well, we don't get it. They
We
just
hold
put-
it and it goes towards any administrative fees or, the cost. And then if there is a delta, we would refund. If they prevail, we will refund those funds.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
So let me bring up this example. When I first got here, there was an issue with whether that person was a local versus out of state. And so we found that, new information that changed it to that person's favor. So would that person have had to pay this bond to say do that extra research when we found out that we probably made the error, they would have to pay.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
But, so they get their money back
Yes,
if
ma'am.
it's
If they
found that we,
prevailed, yes.
if they prevail. Okay, okay.
Okay, the next to last section is Article 2.
Madam Chair. So did we identify an amount or a percentage? Is that what we're looking for, or you just told us
Yes,
the information?
I'm looking for an amount, and,
Okay.
We didn't do amount on any of them.
I think the 10 is high. I don't,
The
5.
median 7,500? We can do a median
75.
between 5 and 10, we do 7,500.
Madam Chair, I
Not
just.
numbers.
Throwing something out. I just mean, we got to be on point.
Huh?
We have to
What's wrong? What is it currently?
be, nothing.
nothing,
Oh,
Nothing.
nothing.
Who does nothing?
So I can go with either. I can go with either Dr. Spirited's 10, or if y'all gonna split the middle between 5 and 10, 7,500. It doesn't matter, but we need to make a decision and keep it moving.
And we need to be on point.
We can go to 7,500. Any objections to that?
I mean, are we just grabbing the numbers?
I
and-
just said it between 5 and 10.
And is that a percent? So you have 5% of the value?
5% of the value of the protester's bid, or estimated, it doesn't look good in the green, does it?
Oh,
Contract value, or 5,000, whichever is less.
What about whichever is more?
Yeah, I'm fine with the suggestion.
Okay.
What did you say?
The suggestion with the 5%, 5,000, you said?
Yes. Whichever is less.
We
Whichever
have,
higher,
we have some heavy development coming up.
whichever, 75 then.
Okay,
call it
let's go
75.
75.
What's the percentage with the 75?
We can just do a flat fee, 75.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. All right, so the next to last is the Article 2-166, the cone of silence. And so the current cone of silence provisions do not adequately protect the integrity of the procurement process. The current code, the root cause is the current code of silence provision is triggered only after a solicitation closes, which creates a gap in the procurement process during the period when a solicitation is publicly advertised and vendors are actively prepping responses. This gap can create a period where communications may occur that could influence the procurement process. So desired outcome is to strengthen the cone of silence provisions to begin when the solicitation is publicly released and apply consistently throughout the procurement process to protect fairness, transparency, and the public trust.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
So how is the city council supposed to do research and investigation before the bids come back to us?
I'm not sure, sir, if I understand your question about research and
Well, you
investigation.
put out a bid, and I have questions that I would like to know beforehand that may change that person's bidding process. You know, if I go and I meet with a developer and I say, you know, something, I think that's stupid what you're doing. I think you ought to do something else or whatever. I can't say that to a developer.
So,
I understand when the solicitations.
right, when a solicitation hits the street, well, let's, most of the projects are listed in the budget. And so we know kind of what we want. But when we put the items out on the street, for you or anyone, so I won't, point thing is to have a conversation with one potential and not to have a conversation with all can lead to, could have an appear that is not necessarily an ethical practice. Because when we post solicitations, some of them could reach 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people. But to have a conversation with just one or two, then the other ones are not having that same conversation or that same advantage point. And so my philosophy is there's nothing that a developer could say to you all as voting members that they should not say to procurement. they're asking, what are you looking for? We ask procurement. And then we'll look and see if the solicitation was clear. The solicitation lists the ask. But if we aren't clear, then I need the vendors to say, hey, you aren't being clear, or have you considered to come to us? But for you all, for someone to be in a position to vote up or down, and yet they've had conversations with potential bidders, it's unfair to everyone else. And in my public procurement experience, everyone, once it hits the street, all talking stops about the solicitation to ensure that it's ethical, we ensure the integrity, we ensure that it's fair across the board for everyone who may want to submit.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go
Yeah,
ahead.
that's great in a perfect world. But here we are as a city council, we have to make $200-300 million decisions at a council meeting where we may get the agenda 3 days before. How are we supposed to make an intelligent decision if I can't talk to the city manager or you or staff or anybody about this solicitation before
You
the
can talk
meeting?
to you can talk to the city manager and staff about the solicitation, just not externally. Once the solicitation hits the street, no talking externally. Internally, yes, and I apologize if I didn't make that clear earlier, but just not externally, but internally, yes. So if Mr. Sermons puts out a solicitation, and then you say, "Hey, Mr. Sermons, I saw it. I have a question. Did you consider?" It's in that time that we can put out we can put out an addendum to correct an error.
Can the staff talk to the external contractor?
No, no. There's nothing to say to a potential external, because they may have more information, and maybe, that someone else doesn't have. So that is why during the question and answer period, they ask us questions, and we post all the answers. That same concept that sometimes you're in a seminar and someone on the front asks a question, but no one in the back can hear it. And so for the benefit of everyone in the room, the person with the mic repeats. It's that same concept. So if a potential bidder has a question about a solicitation, they ask procurement. We don't have all the answers. And so we go to the department to say, could you please answer this particular question? And we do it all the time. They answer, and then we provide those answers to the entire community, and it makes it a public. Everything is transparent and above board. Because let's look at it the opposite. If someone has a conversation with a potential bidder, and they give their opinion about what is needed, and then it comes here, and you all want something else, then that vendor can be, slighted and feel, that they were led down the wrong path. When if they had just asked procurement, we would have answered publicly.
Would that, it's not a solicitation, but would that include developers that are looking for variances or changes in the zoning?
If they're looking for changes in the zoning and the solicitation is open, they will submit the question to procurement, and then we will ask that department. We will ask development services. So therefore, every vendor who may have been looking at it will know that there could possibly be a change versus the one that asked.
So that includes all ordinances that are brought to you by a developer?
Yes.
I have no problem with this. I think it's good.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
question for you, Director Emmons. The cone of silence, when does it start at the county?
The county currently starts when it closes.
Closes. And what does our current code say? Is the
About-
current code says that it starts when it closes as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you wanted it at the beginning, just so that all responding bidders have the same information and no information is disseminated outside of what the council tells them differently. The concern that I see is that, like I said earlier, the data. I want to make sure that the staff is on the same page with the expectations. And if they ask the questions as to what are you expecting, that the same information is given. Local, small businesses, and without actual staff collecting that data, I'm a little concerned with alleviating that power from the council, because when developers call, the first people they call is the council and the mayor's office. What do you guys want in your community? Whether it's solicitation, they may not even have heard of Riviera Beach until the solicitation hits the street. So that first call, it needs to be reflective on staff's action as well for this to be something that even I would see this council supporting. I need staff to do the action necessary to make sure that they're holding the pleasure of the board at the discretion of collecting data, of implementing policy that supports local businesses, because the actions are being done. Mr. Evans has done a great job when it comes to local spending for the fire station, the police station, for the impact, over 50% for our fire stations went to local minority and women businesses. But without policy, once Mr. Evans is gone and this board is gone, that doesn't have to be the same process. But if we have policies in place that substantiate and support it, so the policies have to reflect for any of these changes, because the cone of silence, I don't see why we would change from what the county's doing at the same level. The county waits till it closes. Why does the board change that? So that's my thoughts.
Madam Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
What, Director Amos, what is, I know you just explained to some degree why you decided to do it the way that you have suggested, but I didn't catch the real downside to, and I know you talked about everybody having the same information. What is the biggest problem with doing it at closing?
So first, based upon my colleagues throughout the country, most people in public procurement is when the solicitation hits the street, all the talking stops. That's just throughout the country. We talk about it all the time at conferences. So for me, when I say it's when it closes, they're completely shocked, right? The biggest downside is just that it becomes the possibility that is unfair to every vendor. Vendors have relationships with some and not others. People want to break into the business, but they feel like, the area, and they feel like they can't. And so that is the biggest deterrent. So they may not even submit because they feel as if someone else has more information or has a leg up. To ensure that it is the integrity of the process, we talk about this. We talk about things that are coming up. People know what's coming up. They look at the budgets. I get phone calls and emails. Oh, hey, your budget just passed. Let us know if you have, A, B, C, and when this is coming out. The community is very aware. And I promise you that the vendors who do business with other entities around Florida are used to when a solicitation hits the street, all talking comes through procurement. So everyone has a fair chance.
Madam Chair, one last question.
Yes, go ahead.
So, when it hit the streets, that is the most common practice? Practice?
I would say yes. As if you talk to the legal community, you talk to other procurement professionals, it is the best practice. As I stated in the beginning slides, procurement really is here to protect and to have that trust. And as for the supply, let's talk about the vendor community. They want to know that they are actually, they want to do business with us, that they can trust us, and that they have a fair shot, including our small and local vendors. So if we if we don't allow the outside communication with the voting members, and it's just only, and we're looking at this, the paper, here's the solicitation. If they have questions, we can clear up those questions. There have been times where if I receive too many questions, then we cancel the solicitation because something wasn't right? There's too many questions. So it's not that it's necessarily so perfect, but we do take a look at all of that. And so that is one of the recommendations for the cone of silence. But there's also another one too.
Understood. I can relate to your position. I think it's a good position.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I remember when we talked about this before, was there a separate rule for the mayor's position?
Yes, ma'am, I was just about to
Okay.
get to that.
Okay.
So in this particular, in the change as well, I think before when I researched the history, the cone of silence that was presented included the mayor And so, and it did not pass.
Right.
The proposal submitted to you today is really, again, it's at the will of the council to include the mayor or not. And that is a decision that you all have to make. But yes, it did come for you before and it didn't pass.
Yeah, I remember that. I mean, huh?
I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, if I may, the item did pass. It was just vetoed.
Right.
Thank you
Yeah,
for the clarity.
I do believe it should include all of the elected officials.
Yeah, Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with Councilwoman Charlotte Miller Anderson. I think that all elected officials should be included in this.
Okay with that too. All right. Noted. So thank you. The last one for tonight is Article 10, and it's the local vendor preference. And so the problem statement is the current procurement framework did not fully support or maximize the opportunities for local vendor participation and economic development. The root cause is the procurement code and associated processes were not originally structured to intentionally align with the activities. And so with the desired outcome, we just want to strengthen the local vendor preference provisions to encourage participation from Riviera Beach businesses while maintaining fair and competitive procurement practices. And so in the proposed language, I did not, I left the definition. In the current definitions, to be considered a local business, you have to have an address in the city, not a P.O. box, but a storefront address, and pay your tax. But what we discovered is in using your, what I did was separate how we would help local businesses on an ITB or bid side versus the proposal side. The current language kind of use the language interchangeably. So for ITBs, we, if they aren't the lowest, we will apply for ranking the 5% like cost difference and do the calculations. And if they become lower based upon that, they will win. However, the price will be the original one they submitted. Okay, that's on the ITB or the hard bids. For the RFPs, the goal is just to allow a 5%, 5% of the points they will be awarded if they are a local vendor. So again, so you have those two avenues.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
a question may be related to this, but just generally, many of the local small minority businesses, some have challenges getting bonds to really compete, definitely on the prime level. But some of them may get an opportunity to come on board with someone who does or have put up a sufficient bond. How can we help the sub become an equity partner without requiring a major bond if a bond is already put up by the prime?
Thank you for the question.
Okay.
And I don't have an answer. I haven't quite.
You can get back to me. Please research that.
I will get back to you. I need to research.
Okay.
Because under just the way we've
but you understood the question.
I understood the question is that because our small businesses sometimes have a hurdle in actually achieving a bond, that they can still do the work. And so how do we kind of really force a partnership with the sub?
Not force, no,
not force,
yeah.
but encourage.
Encourage, and sometimes the prime actually come to a sub to elevate them. But if we're requiring a bond on top of the bond that the prime has already provided, that's what I'm kind of focusing on. If there's a bond by the prime already there, but because that sub is elevated now to a partnership or equity partner, I think we still require something of them as well, or do
yes, that is yes.
That's where I'm going. Because if the prime already has the bond and a sub, a smaller company, gets an opportunity to rise to a partnership or equity level, how can we work with the existing bond that was there and not necessarily put that burden on the smaller company? So,
Well, then to answer that particular question, and thank you for the clarification. If the council has awarded a contract for company A and they sub with company B, then that's,
so I mean,
I'm sorry, if they contract with, but if they form a partnership, that partnership was not awarded the contract. It was number A, vendor A. If vendor B comes along and forms a contract and forms a partnership with A after the award from the council, we have nothing to do with that because the council has awarded a contract to contractor A.
okay.
Their relationship, if they form a partnership, then that's their partnership. However, if they form the partnership before, then they can submit the solicitation under company name AB.
Okay.
Madam
And,
Chair?
I'm sorry, one last question.
But let me finish.
The encouraging a partnership is something that I think we should look at too. That was the second part of that question, encouraging. I'm done, Madam Chair. It's 9 o'clock. I'm out of here.
Madam Chair? Okay, so with that question pertaining to bonding, for example, a developer would get the bond on the entire project. It's really up to the developer whether they want to get a performance bond from their subcontractors. That's to protect them, not to protect the city, because the city's already covered under the major bond. So we shouldn't have to require any bonds from a subcontractor if there's a bond already existing on the whole project, and that includes partnerships or no partnerships.
So we wouldn't require the
Right.
bond from the city because we do have it.
Right.
Anything else is based upon the relationship between the prime and the sub.
Right.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. So, Director Hammond, you're saying that the city cannot require any agreements from the subcontractor agreements in the solicitation?
We can ask for a copy of them, but when you say require, meaning you must subcontract with this person? Not in my professional, that doesn't mean that another entity has, but our agreements are with the primes.
Okay, so federal language, large businesses must submit small business contracting, subcontracting plans for contracts exceeding 750,000. We can require that plan or that language on a federal, but I'm saying not a specific company, but we can require the language in the solicitation.
So let me research and make sure I understand your question. Because if the question is basically, do we want to know who they are, or are we going to direct who they shall be?
No. No, we can't direct who they should be, but we
Okay.
want to know who they are.
But we want to know
And
who
we
they
want to
are.
require contracting agreements in the solicitation. We want to make sure that they have those available, not a specific company.
Right. Yes, we can ask for the subcontracting agreements for the solicitation,
Yeah.
but we also allow for them to be able to change those subcontractors because our award would be still with the prime
Right.
and not the sub.
And then what about requiring a subcontracting plan? Can we require that in solicitation?
Some solicitations do require a subcontracting plan. You can have a plan, but if you put subcontractor A and you need to now use subcontractor B, a subcontracting plan should still allow for it.
And how would they actually plan on using and operating and implementing that contract? I want that clearly articulated in the solicitations.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
With respect to the subcontract agreements or the opportunity for subcontract agreements, there probably has to be some language that provides for a situation after award, because they probably wouldn't get into some of those agreements until there's a situation where there's a bona fide commitment from the city to help facilitate that, because that in and of itself may be challenging to ask for the depending on what the scale and scope of the project is, for them to have all those agreements provided for, and then you have to reconcile it against statutes, and then you have to look if there's any, their business deals and relationships that may be exempt from some type of disclosure. So that's something that from a procurement process procedure thing, we're just gonna have to flush that out if that's in fact the desire of the board.
Let's just do some more research on that so we can bring back more information. Follow up, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
You mentioned cone of silence. Let me pull this information back up. You said that in your professional career, cone of silence has started on submission deadline. I'm sorry, on public release.
Yes.
Okay, looking at the county, you mentioned earlier the county is one that it's actually on deadline, right?
Mhm.
I'm looking at Palm Beach County. We have West Palm Beach, Boynton, Lake Worth, Boca, Palm Beach Gardens. The only one that's on public release is the town of Jupiter. So locally, and understanding you've traveled the world and you've worked cross country, locally and in Palm Beach County, most of these solicitations are on submittal deadline. So, and I know that that's something that you want to just make sure that you keep transparency with the process. Again, my concern is just documentation, data, and making sure that everyone receives the same information. But as the point of reference, this board, typically developers, contractors, everyone's coming to the city to figure out, well, what does the community want? And being a voice for the community, my staff has to have the data to support what they're saying or what they're doing. We meet with our clients, we meet with our residents, we meet with our community on a daily basis. So I think that we are excellent spokespersons for the community. You mentioned also the mayor being added to the code of silence. What does the current code say?
The current code does not, give me just one moment. Section, I think, 266.
Mhm.
I mean, 2-166. All right, the current cone of silence.
Mhm.
The current cone of silence means a prohibition on any communication except for written correspondence regarding a particular request for proposal, qualification, or bid. Any city council person and their respective legislative staff there's no conversation, so it doesn't include the mayor. The current cone does not include the mayor.
Okay, and the cone starts at the
time that the bids are submitted.
Mhm. At the time that submitted or the bid closes?
Bid closes.
Because
Bid
it's
closes.
two different things, because they
That's
can be
true.
submitted.
Bid closes.
Okay,
Mhm.
so when the bid closes is when the cone currently starts. You're proposing to move that to the very beginning of the
Yes.
solicitation. I have a lot of pause with that, colleagues, because I don't see any other municipal agencies in Palm Beach County outside of Jupiter that's currently doing it, including the county, and then also including the mayor. I have no problem being a part of the cone when the bid closes, because that gives the development community, businesses, opportunity to have conversation. But once the bids close, then I mean that's something I would definitely consider for the entire board. It makes more sense as a board, especially with the rest of the county doing it. And I agree, if as an elected official we're concerned with having the mayor, who is a non-voting mayor in the cone, it should be on the same level with the other elected officials. But my recommendation would be to not do it at the beginning, but to do it when the bid closes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, can I ask one question? Just clarification, because I heard a lot going on, but okay, so your prime, if they come before us and present with subcontractors, minority local businesses, and they have all of these people paraded around this room saying that they're going to be working on this project, we award them the bid. After the bid is awarded, they can go and remove all of those people that they paraded in front of us that were going to be subcontractors, and that's okay. Is that what you're telling me? So, yes. So
So the question is, did we award based upon the subcontractors or did we award based upon the whole proposal? And was the proposal evaluated and scored before the oral presentations, right? So, Madam Chair, but wouldn't the subcontractors be listed? Because I know I just reviewed one and all of the subcontractors were there, their pictures, their information, what their history is, what they would be doing. All of that is in the proposal. Yes, yes. But we don't, yes, it is. But the relationship between the developer and the sub is just that, it's between the developer and the sub. And so if we say who you submitted, you have to use, and it's something that we can research, then we're forcing relationships and we're forcing and telling them who to use. And so in my professional line of work, I've never had to force people to use people who, just because they presented them on a project and things happen. There could be a business that goes out of business. By the time the project comes along, they can't do the work. And so they have to find another subcontractor. Relationships sour. And so that's why in my professional history, we haven't held them to, no, you said you were going to use this person and you have to use this particular person. So yeah, the extreme, like you just said, it is an extreme, like, hey, I could sub out everybody. But if we're asking or requiring let's say a minority spend, then they can sub with another, minority or local or small business or whatever they decide. But from the procurement professional perspective, we don't force the relationship or force you to use the subs.
Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
And it, it really is it's incumbent upon those subcontractors to not allow those primes to parade them around without them having a contract in hand. If they had that contract in hand, then, they wouldn't have to deal with the fact that they use them just to get the award, and then they tell them they're not going to use them. So they have to make sure that they have that contract in hand before they agree to be a part of the presentation.
Exactly. Okay, thank you.
Right, Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, so my colleagues just brought up a very important issue, and we've had this happen just recently. There was a very large project that we issued, and the local people, or a good many of the local people, were no longer part of the project after we gave them the project. So, as my colleague said, it's very important. It's very, very important that the local contractors have contracts or letter agreements before they stand here before us. Otherwise, they can be abused and more likely will be abused.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
This is directly in line with our subcontracting plan. Having a clear plan to outline what does our subs look like, what can we require, what is the change, what is the interchanging of subs look like, and having a clear plan to articulate that. And that's why it's important to include it in the solicitations, because we've experienced it. We call it the dog and pony show. How do we avoid the dog and pony show? Is we allow for the contractors to come to the table with an actual contract, and we allow for the primes to make sure they have a subcontracting agreement and plan in place as to how they're going to proceed, and put that into the solicitation. That's how we give additional benefits to locals, minorities, and subs.
I think I'm just gonna,
And then with that, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, follow up.
Yes, go ahead.
And then I know there's federal language that actually can support and justify the subcontractors agreements, and also some protective measures. But most importantly, just finding the areas that we can actually have. I can't find it now, but if you can do that research to bring back what does that plan look like? Because I think that's been the frustration. We've seen it all over the country, where they'll parade individuals from the community just to get the contract. And once they've been secured, now they'll go find cheaper labor. And that's what's killing a lot of our community. We want to circulate those dollars here. So how do we make sure we can't demand that minorities and locals get 30, 40% because we don't have our disparity study? But it all reverts back to my policies I'm asking for. So let's get those policies in place. We can have the studies, we can have this subcontracting plan, and then we can require that of any of our contractors.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I think this is just part of the going with the local, by Riviera Beach. When it comes to solicitations, I've been encouraging local participation. I did reduce the number of forms for all of the solicitations. We want to post the forms online with sample examples and again, expand vendor outreach and training. And lastly, create a vendor database for special events. In 2025, I did have a procurement conference on October 30th and October 31st. Franklin Lee was the featured speaker for that particular event. And just to highlight, because I know it's getting late, we just say that the collaboration between procurement, legal, finance, and all of the operational departments help promote procurement, but also understanding what the federal laws, how they've changed, how they've adjust, but how we can still help the locals in our particular community. There were approximately 50 people on day one, and day two was a more internal staff, and it was a great dialogue, great conversation about how the state of procurement and how we can do to just fortify. And a lot of the codes, a lot of the changes that were presented in the code changes, Attorney Franklin Lee did provide those, as well as our consultant civic initiatives. And so this is my last slide. So the first question was, do you agree with the proposed updates to the definition section of 16.5? I think there was a consensus for that. The protest language, duly noted. I'll look back at the tape because we talked a lot between the 5,000 and 7,500. Our 5,000. Okay, thank you. No, 7,500. Okay. The cone of silence changes. I guess I would like to ask the board, is it, the council, is it your wish or desire from when the solicitation hits the street or when the solicitation closes?
What is it on?
For the cone of silence.
What is it on?
When it closes.
Yeah.
When it closes.
When it
Closes.
Yeah, I think, that's
Yeah.
mostly what most people do.
Do you support requiring purchase orders for procurements? That was the addition under the office of the purchasing agent. Again, there are exceptions, P card, emergencies, which could be done, by a P card, and, the rents and utilities would not be on a purchase order.
So is that the one we need to come up with the amount? So that's not the 25 versus 50 and monthly?
No, because I believe,
I don't think we made a decision on that.
okay, so let's make we didn't make a decision on the 50 or 25,000?
No. What, is that the P card one you're talking about right now?
No, just
What
go
about
through
that
this,
one?
we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, go through this, go finish this one, and then we'll go back to
Okay,
that.
so what this is saying is, the new addition was to require everything above a certain dollar amount to be on a purchase order, but there are exceptions. The P card is an exception, an emergency purchase that could be done with a P card is an exception, as well as rents and utilities are the exception is outlined, and that was section 16.5-45.
Was there a minimum amount?
Yes, there was a minimum amount, but that minimum amount is going to depend on the other chart that I showed.
I think I stepped down on this one. What? I'm not
I know. Okay. So that minimum amount, as far as the purchase order threshold, if we kept it at 25,000, would be 2,500.
I was here for that one, but the P card, and is that the P card one? Is that what we're talking?
Those were just I was just pointing out an exception.
Go back.
Because you can't say everything must go on a PO and then you have P cards.
Right.
So it's just an exception. I said with appropriate exceptions, for example, P card and emergencies.
I think I'm missing what is the question you're asking?
The question is, do you support requiring spend to be on a PO except for P card purchases, rents, utilities, and some emergencies?
What is it now? I mean, what is
Yeah,
that?
you have to give us,
an
tell us what it is now
What's
versus what you're
happening now?
asking.
Oh, it's not in the code now.
It's got nothing in the code?
There's nothing in the code that requires a purchase order. So you can, so someone could submit a check request.
I I totally missed all
So
of
that's why I wanted to put it in the code to require a purchase order. But there's nothing in the code now. There's nothing in the code that requires a purchase order or P card to make a purchase. One can submit a check request and go straight to
Oh,
finance.
no, that I don't like, no.
So that's why I added it and
Yeah,
say, do you support it?
yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah.
All
That's
right.
fine.
Now, there were 6 ordinance changes, and I have it in the attachment as one. Do we want to keep it as one ordinance change, or do we want to split it and have 6 separate ordinances?
We need to split those because that's a lot of information.
Okay. Thank you so much.
What about the? what
We
say
still
about
ain't
the
decided
25?
25. Oh, still haven't seen it. Bruce want 25.
I'm 25.
25. I wanted 50.
I go for 50.
I go for 35.
She like to go
I'll go to 20. I'll go to 25. I'll go to 25. But that will include the monthly reports regardless, because we said from this point. So let me repeat back what I think I heard. Okay, go ahead. We will keep it at the level that it is right now.
Yeah.
$25,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all so much for your time tonight.
But we're gonna get reporting, right? We're still gonna get,
Still
we're
need
gonna
the
get
reporting,
monthly
the monthly.
reports. And we're gonna have an exit ramp if we think that it's going overboard where we can stop it.
They want to know, it's just like the law department sends us a list of all our current legal matters. Every month they send us, this is what they're doing, this is what this case is.
Okay.
Same thing should
So you
apply.
want a monthly report?
Yes.
Okay.
But in the ordinance, I think the city council should have the authority to stop further use of that if we feel it's going overboard
But
for
it's
that
25.
fiscal year.
But,
Yeah, even if
Madam-
it's 25, you can spend 25,000
We're
100
not
times
changing it.
during a
We're
month.
not changing it, though.
but we're not changing the spending authority.
To drop it down below 25.
Councilman Spiritus,
No, no, no.
are you looking to increase it, you said?
No, I would prefer 50,000.
Oh, okay.
But
So,
if we're only gonna
but the
eat, I
pleasure
don't
of the
care
bo-
whether it's 50 or 25, I prefer 50.
right.
But no matter which one it is, I just think that the city council and the ordinance has to have the ability to put the brakes on. Because you could spend 25,000 100 times in 1 month.
But what are we
With
gonna
different
put the
people.
brakes on? I mean, what are we gonna drop it to, 10,000?
No, I'm not saying drop anything. I'm just saying give us the ability after we get that monthly report to say, hold it a second. We're spending way too much money. We want to put a stop on this for the next 6 months or for the next rest of the fiscal year.
But if you put a
So-
stop on him having the $25,000 limit, is that what you're saying?
That's if we think it's being abused. If we think it's too much money being spent out of the budget for
Or we're
that.
gonna drop it
So
to
don't
that.
they-
No,
don't
we
you
could
have a
just,
budget?
we could do whatever we could, by a majority vote, we can either stop it or change the number or do
So-
whatever we want at that point.
I think that that's a bit more intrusive. I mean, the way that it is now, I mean, if you want monthly reports, then that's what it is. But the way it is now, it's under $25,000 for professional services. But we can add that it does not include HR or something like that. We can do that for that
But
25.
my problem is that you could spend that, getting a monthly report doesn't do you any good if you can't do something about it. If you find something wrong, what's the point in having a monthly report if you can't do anything about it? We have to give ourselves the ability to put the brakes on or do
We always bring
something
it back.
if we feel that something wrong is happening, that's all.
So, Madam Chair, and
Yes.
follow up, that this is gonna be 6 different ordinances, you said? Director Emmons?
That was
That's
the
the
will of the
pleasure of the board.
council.
Okay. Okay.
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes.
So, just a couple of things I think is germane to the conversation. With the variety and the different ordinances, what you do expose the organization to is a situation where you have different rules, regulations competing. It just adds for confusion. And certainly from a procurement standpoint, and Director Ammons can provide additional commentary to the point, is no other municipality would patch it, would put it in such patchwork. Your procurement ordinance is really supposed to be neat, clean, and able for the layperson to be able to understand it. And I would just caution the board with, if there are elements that because you're still not comfortable with some of the elements, just let us work some of the language and give you an iteration that, we can leave the blanks and you can fill it, we can fill in the numbers. But I'm just concerned about just different,
Right.
you know,
We can do
sections.
that.
And I will tell you right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, Director Hammonds, the procurement code is referenced as 16.5 in the Code of Ordinances. 16 is the police department. And so even where it stands right now, you can see you have 16.5, and then you have, you know, other sections. And we as a city have done that very same thing, and we have elements all throughout the code. And so if, you know, we'll take the direction of the board, obviously, but certainly we can probably try to clean up something that looks to address what are some of the major concerns.
And then two, also make sure that you include what is goods and services? What is that definition? You know, what that includes.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
So you're saying instead of having the 6 ordinances, just to put them all in one, right?
Yes, Madam Chair,
I mean,
that's my
well, we
recommendation.
just pretty much agreed that we're okay with what we're saying, so we don't have to have it in 6 different ones. We can do just the one. Okay, I'm gonna have to leave.
Where would I have to?
And
Let me
Madam
ask-
Chair,
Hold on a second. Let me ask the board for direction on having the item for our advisory board to be on the next workshop agenda.
Oh, yes, that's
Yes.
fine. Yes.
All right, very good. So we will move, sorry, guys, sorry. We are very sorry. We're gonna add this on to our next agenda.
That'll be first.
The 26th, got a date and everything.
Give them comp time, please. Give them something for sitting here.
All right, so tell us again, Mr. Evans, about how this will look.
yes, Madam Chair, if I may, I'll get with the procurement director, and we'll provide you some examples with respect to how other municipalities handle the reporting element from the city manager. Also, how we can incorporate it in one ordinance and give you the option to come back in subsequent ordinances. We'll work together and see what we can do to have it make sense, so you can be able to understand how the procurement code works in conjunction with what the board's desires are.
Very good.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go
can
ahead.
I ask our legal counsel a question? If we have an ordinance, and for example, and I'm not saying our city manager is going to abuse this. I got to look 20 years down the road. This is an ordinance that may be here
It's about
forever.
the seat, not about the person.
You're right, exactly. So if the city manager is abusing this system, can we make a motion to stop the city manager from spending the money, from spending future money?
An example of that.
Let's say he spends $15 million in 1 month on $25,000 contracts.
Say that again?
Be more realistic.
If he
That's,
does
you
what?
got $25,000
Right.
a pop. He can give out 15, 20 contracts in 1 month.
I see, but don't you have a budget, Mr. Evans, in terms of what you can spend that?
Yeah,
yes,
Madam
go
Chair, if I
ahead.
may, yes, yeah, we would still have a budget, you know, so we can't exceed, obviously, the overall budget or the department budget. And so in those cases, you know, if there's a professional services contract, like we need to get a coastal engineer, I do it within the confines of the budget. If there is no monies that are provided for in the budget, then we have to, if we want to pull from contingency, I then have to come to the board and ask for monies to pull from contingency. But, you know, we have to operate within the constructs of the budget. And like I said, when we do come back, I will provide you with examples and how other cities handle that, to make sure that, to the council person's point, you don't find out that there's $565,000 of expenditures for professional service contracts for a variety of different services. And so we can definitely look to see what other cities do to handle that. But yeah, we have to stay in the confines of the budget.
Can I ask the manager something?
Yeah.
How many unsolicited proposals do you get? Do you get a lot of, or like contracts? I remember when I first got here, I felt like I was getting emails with different proposals, everybody requesting to do something.
Madam
Like we
Chair.
were. Mhm.
So few unsolicited proposal, but a lot of ideas, you know, but yes. And so, you know, when we look at those it has to be a bona fide benefit to the city, or being something that we're effectively trying to accomplish to move forward with. And so there is some discretion with regards to that. And any department that we work with that say, hey, I need somebody for this particular, there's a scope of services that's provided, and they have to, follow what the process is, and then it's provided to procurement, and procurement helps track to ensure that we don't overexpend that. So there is a process to effectively do that.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Are there any other questions before we adjourn?
No,
This meeting is adjourned.
I didn't cancel it. We'll just say.